Alright, welcome to my guide on how to complete every single combat mastery achievement. Today we're going to cover the full master tier of achievements. This video is alphabetically organized by boss and is meticulously timestamped in the description below. To fully complete the master tier, you will start to have to commit to learning specific rotations and using the 3 original combat styles. I'll still showcase as many of these achievements as possible while using Necromancy, since it is the most accessible style for most players. As of making this video, I've become the 80th combat master in the game, and I'm top 10 in the overall RuneScore rankings. Throughout this guide, I will be using the best in slot equipment for all 4 styles, and my perks are shown on screen here. Feel free to pause or refer to my full invention plus perks guide. I hope you find the video helpful and informative, and I wish you good luck on your road to becoming a combat master. Enjoy. Alright, first up is the Ambassador, and all we need to do in the Master tier is to get a solo kill in under 2 minutes 30 seconds, so let's go ahead and look at that quickly. So I'll be using Necromancy for this kill. Before I start, I like to get my conjures out, do my commands, invoke death early, and once I'm ready, I'll surge in with Command Skeleton and start the fight. Start off with the Death Skulls. You can pre-build Necrosis and Souls if you want to for this kill, and you can dump those early, but what I'm going to do is I'm just going to Living Death and start blasting away with Necrosis here. Get my Death Skulls off, and at a certain point I'm going to activate Split Soul. That's going to give me a lot of preliminary damage in this first phase. Once I see that I'm around 750k, 700k HP, I can dump my really big abilities like my Volley, my Bloat, things that are going to be really powerful under the Split Soul effect. If you're lucky with the timing of these big hitting abilities, you could actually get a Spinner Skip, which would be a huge time save, but that's not going to be really necessary for the Master speed kill, and we will be getting a cycle of spinners in this kill. So I'm just going to finish off this phase, bringing him under 650k HP, and then I'll stun that black hole there. Then I'll just focus on killing the spinners quickly. This section is time gated, and there's nothing really we can do to speed this up, so just make sure you kill all those spinners. Sometimes during the spinners, once I get down to the last couple of them, I might delete my conjures and then summon a fresh set. That way I just have a full duration of conjures for the rest of the kill. While I'm doing that, I'll go ahead and recommand those, recommand the ghost, recommand the skeleton. That way the skeleton starts building up some rage stacks, and I'm just building up all of my other stacks. So I want to end the spinner phase with 5 soul stacks and as much necrosis as possible. You can see on this last spinner, I ended up doing a natural instinct, although I don't think that actually benefited me all that much. While the Ambassador is still immune to damage, I can do things like apply a Bloat or reapply Smoke Cloud if I wanted, and I can do those things relatively losslessly. Then once Ambassador is attackable again, I'll just take the same approach that I did at the start of the fight, where I'll go with Death Skulls and then build back up towards Living Death. Just trying to improvise with good abilities like Necrosis, Bloat, and my Command Skeleton whenever possible. Once I do get to my Living Death, then you know the drill by now. It's just blast away with Necrosis. So that's getting things off like Death Skulls, spamming those Fingers of Death, using a bunch of auto attacks to generate more Necrosis and subsequently spam more Fingers of Death, and I'll even try and use Split Soul once again during this Living Death. You see by the time my Living Death is over, Ambassador is under 100k HP, and now I can just improvise with my weapon specs, so my tier 95 weapon spec and my tier 90 death guard, and that should allow me to finish off the boss, as you see here, in under 2 minutes 30 seconds, granting me the master speed kill. Overall, relatively easy with Necromancy camp. Next up is Araxxor. We'll need to get a kill at 300% in rage, which really just means doing 15 kills in a single day. Mechanically, nothing is going to change compared to normal Araxxor kills, so I can't really help with this. We'll also need to get a sub 1 minute 42 kill, so I will recommend this melee and range hybrid method as the simplest approach, especially since the Necromancy Invoke Death method was patched out. And for me, that was the more consistent and the more fun option of the two, so let's start by showing that one. The nice thing is, while this is a really fast kill and might seem complicated, the rotation is actually very easy to remember. It's really only going to be 3 abilities to get the top path skip, and then I'll use 2 abilities to kill the final phase. So I start the kill by using melee, and around the time the Araxxor web burn is about 45%, you can use a Dragon Scimitar special attack. That will dramatically increase your accuracy, and therefore damage in the coming phase. Around 65% or so web burn, you can use Natural Instinct, build back up to use Meteor Strike, and then build back up to use Berserk. After Berserk, just build back up to full adrenaline on Araxxor, and wait the clock out. At about 58 seconds on the clock, you can drink your acceleration potion. Then use Chaos Roar on Araxxor. Turn backwards, 1 step diagonally to properly line up your surge. Then do surge, dive through the tunnel, surge, 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 all the way through the tunnel, dive back, surge, surge, surge towards Araxxor, and now the 3 abilities that I mentioned. I think ideally you'd want to do it in the order Dragon Claw, then Overpower, then Length Spec, but in this clip I did Overpower, then Claw, then Length Spec, and it still worked out just fine. If you're entering the final phase at around a minute 13 on the clock, you should be good to go for the Master Timer. In phase 4, I'll spam click to drop a dummy, and then I'll try to build up to 100% adrenaline using ranged. I am using Wen arrows for this, no need for any death spores or anything crazy like that. Since I'm using Wen arrows, all of the basic abilities I'm using on the dummy are going to give me stacks and make my 2 abilities really strong. So once I have adrenaline, I'll use Death Swiftness and A-Pot. You could also use the A-Pot to build up to Death Swiftness if that was helpful. So after you place your Death Swiftness, you want to use Eldritch Crossbow special attack. Then when Araxxor is attackable, use Rapid Fire and finish it off with a Saren Godbow spec. In this clip, I was also late to target cycling Araxxor, and my Saren Godbow just barely didn't kill it. It was 98 HP short, but even with those few mistakes, you can see I still got the Master Timer, and that's all we're looking for at the end of the day. So to summarize this method, Claw, Overpower, Length Spec to get the top path skip, then Swift, ECB, Rapid Fire, SGB to finish off P4. On to the Arch-Glacor. We'll need to get a kill at 2000% Enrage, and we'll also need to get a 100 kill streak. I do have a full standalone Enrage pushing guide, chock full of tips and tricks, and even show you how to get a 2k kill with less than 10 million GP worth of gear. So I definitely recommend that video if you're interested in pushing. I can't really help you with the kill streak challenge either, but if you can get up to 2000% Enrage, you'll definitely be able to get a 100 kill streak fairly easily. If you're starting at 0% Enrage, a 100 kill streak will put you at about 1100 Enrage, so it should be nice and easy. The last challenge in the Master tier is to get a 1000% kill in under 2 minutes 30. So let's go ahead and look at that quickly. So I'll be starting with Necromancy. I won't be using anything like Zero Tick Soulfire, just relatively casual Necromancy strats. Summon the Conjures, Invoke Death at the start, Command Ghost, Command Skeleton, and open up the fight right away with Bloat so that we can see what specs we're going to get. In this kill, it looks like I'm going to get the Beams first, so I'm just going to improvise with my tier 95 spec, building a few stacks and using some supercharged auto attacks. Just kind of getting in some preliminary damage on the Arch-Glacor. Anytime that you're stuck doing arms and you can't really do damage, it's a good time to make use of your command abilities like Command Skeleton, since they'll still be able to attack Glacor. Just making sure I dodge the beams and getting ready for the next mechanic, which in my kill looks like it's going to be cannons. You can see that I've already done about 250,000 damage of the approximately 1 million damage we'll need to do throughout the kill. I like to make use of the Reflect strategy, as you'll get your HP back to full, and you'll also end up doing about 30,000 Reflect damage towards Arch-Glacor. I'm trying to play conservatively with my Living Death. I don't want to do it too early and end up wasting it on a spec like minions or arms. I would end up wasting most of my damage potential, not being able to fully use my Death Skulls on the Arch-Glacor. So you can see in a lot of the kill, I'm really kind of relying on tier 95 spec, relying on Bloat, relying on Command Skeleton, and I'm really just waiting until I get the Flurry mechanic before I want to use Living Death. Once I do get that Flurry mechanic, I want to go into Living Death right away. I want to make sure that I can use Split Soul, and I just want to blast away with Necrosis. Spam those Fingers of Death, spam those auto attacks, use Split Soul whenever possible, and since Arch-Glacor is going to be doing quite a lot of damage to you, you can make pretty good use of Divert here, which might allow you to get off an extra Bloat, or even an extra Finger of Death without a lot of stacks. Anything that can increase your damage during Split Soul and during this limited Flurry window is going to be really beneficial towards this speed kill. Once you get minions, you're just going to want to use Threads of Fate and knock those guys out with something like a Sap and Volley. You see at this point I'm about 2 minutes into my kill, and there will be a little bit of RNG with the mechanics that you get. If I were to get an arms mechanic here, it might ruin my speed kill attempt. But you can see I get a favorable mechanic here, looks like it's going to be the cannon, and I can resummon my Conjures and just finish off that last bit of HP, getting myself to kill in under 2 minutes 30 seconds. Next up is the Blackstone Dragon. We need to get a solo kill time of under 2 minutes 15 seconds. The easiest way to do this is to go for a flight skip using Necromancy, and the method you'll see actually works out really well for the Grandmaster time too. So even if you don't execute it fully perfectly to the Grandmaster level, if you take away the core concepts from this section, you'll be able to smash that 2:15 timer. So for this kill, I'll start by having full stacks of Soul and Necrosis. I'll start the kill off with Skeleton, Split Soul, Surge in, and then place my Dominion Mines. I'll do Death Skulls, Bloat, tier 95 spec, auto attack, 5-stack volley, and then tier 90 spec. Anything under 500,000 HP should be your target pre-phase HP to set up a really nice and easy flight skip. On the arms, we're going to be doing something very similar to each one of them. We'll do Deathmark and Bloat on every single arm. Then just try to finish them off with any good basics or Conjure Skeleton. I think arms are also flankable, so you could bring a flanking switch and make use of Soul Strike. But in this kill, I'm just relying on the Deathmark, Bloat, and basics like I mentioned. I do a 3-stack volley on the second arm, but I also have plenty of time to build up to 5 stacks again. So I'm just making my way around the room with that idea in mind, and also trying to remember to drink a bunch of spiritual prayer potions to restore my Ripper Demon special points. Those Ripper Demon attacks really do wonders on a kill time like this. On the last arm, sometimes I'll try to get a Death Skulls that will both finish off the arm and still have a chance to bounce to Blackstone Dragon, but more often than not, I'm not really that successful with this idea. Either way though, you'll want to make sure that you're close to full adrenaline and full soul stacks by the time you kill arms. Once you kill arms, it's time to do your very best Living Death rotation and spam as many Ripper Demon Scrolls as you can. So here, I do Living Death, Touch, Skulls, then Split Soul. And all I want to do now is spam through my Necrosis abilities. At this time, it can be helpful to activate the Dragon Slayer Sigil ability if you have that unlocked. I'm going to do a big 5-stack volley, spamming through my Necrosis, and near the end of the kill, you want to get off both of your weapon specs, so tier 95 spec and then tier 90 spec. And there you have it. There's a really simple way of achieving the Blackstone Dragon flight skip and earning the Grandmaster kill time of under a minute 45 seconds. So for Kerapac, we'll need to get a sub 3 solo hard mode kill, which can be pretty simple to do with Necromancy. Then we have a few interesting mechanical challenges here. First off, we can't let any of our player echoes die during phase 4. We also need to do a kill where we kill all 3 of Kerapac's echoes within 9 seconds of each other. And lastly, we'll have to do a kill where we purposely get the time thread on each of the 3 phases and leave those 3 time threads alive throughout the whole kill. So let's start off by looking at the Kerapac speed kill in under 3 minutes. I did build Souls and Necrosis at the start of this kill at War's Retreat, so I am starting with 8 Souls, a Supercharged Auto, and 5 Necrosis. Then I'll start right away with Split Soul, unleash my Death Skulls, unleash Bloat, and just dump all of these stacks that I ended up building. So dump that volley, then walk under Kerapac to avoid the time thread, and just trying to do my best damage with my Split Soul and my tier 95 spec. Ideally, I finish off phase 1 without needing to use Living Death. That way I can take advantage of the Time Warp mechanic with all of my Living Deaths. So it's okay if I get one jump here. I am going to be trying to spam Ripper Demon Scrolls as much as possible, drinking as many Spiritual Prayer Potions as I can. That's going to help me skip some of these jump mechanics if I can. But in the first phase, it is definitely okay if you get one. So to start the second phase, I'm going to go for Time Warp right away, make sure that I can Living Death with that and Adrenaline Potion, get off of Death Skulls, and I'll just try and dump whatever Adrenaline I can before the Time Warp refunds all of my Adrenaline. Now, this second phase is probably going to be the fastest phase of the fight, since you have everything at your disposal adrenaline-wise, with the Time Warp, with your Living Death, and you can see in this kill I'm just spamming through these Necrosis abilities, finishing the phase off at about a minute 14 on the clock. I'm going to take the same approach to the third phase, although I might have to wait a little bit longer for my Time Warp. So I'll start off with the Death Skulls here, then just build back my Adrenaline. Once I have full Adrenaline, I'll go for Time Warp, Living Death, and take the same exact approach as I did on phase 2. Just spamming through all my Necrosis abilities. It is probably going to be fine if I can't get off a Death Skulls in the duration of my Time Warp, since I don't have APOD. In any event, Time Warp is going to refund me all of my Adrenaline, and I can go with some Death Skulls there and spam a bunch of Necrosis. When necessary, I can summon some new Conjures, which is going to be around the time that I'm starting the fourth and final phase. So you can see I enter the fourth and final phase at about 2 minutes on the clock, leaving me about a minute to finish off this kill. So one really good tip on all of these Echoes of Kerapac is going to be to use Invoke Death and Bloat on every single one of them if you can. The Invoke Death is going to save you from having to do a pretty substantial amount of damage to each one of them, and the Bloat is going to give you a way to reliably trigger that death mark even if you had to leave a clone early. So you see on this first one I go for a Death Skulls and a Bloat and just start building some stacks. I do end up leaving pretty early at about 40,000 HP. On this second clone I'm going to dump my 5-stack volley, then get back to 100% adrenaline, at which point I'll use Time Warp for the final time of the fight. With this Time Warp, I'm going to want to use Living Death, and ideally I would want to kill this clone during the duration of that Time Warp, but in this kill I got a little bit shy of that, so I get off of Death Skulls on this guy, get off the Invoke Death, and I do end up killing him where I can turn my attention to Kerapac. I've got about 20 seconds to spare on this kill. So now on Kerapac, I'm just going to be dumping everything. Make sure you use Split Soul, and if you wanted to be extra safe, you could even use a Ring of Death on this final section. That way you wouldn't really have to worry about the prayer flicks. And as you can see, I finished off the boss in about 2 minutes 50 seconds, so I had about 10 seconds of extra leeway on that master speed kill. The first mechanical challenge to Kerapac that I'll tackle is to kill all of the clones within 9 seconds of each other. So at the start of phase 4, the same strategy is going to apply, except I'm not going to want to kill these outright. I'm first going to want to make my way around, chipping away at all of the echoes, getting them to about 50,000 HP or so, and making sure that I have Bloat and Invoke Death applied to each one of them. Once I get them low, then I'm going to want to use some powerful abilities that can finish them off really quickly. So you can see that Bloat is chipping away at the middle guy, and Bloat is also going to end up killing this third guy. As soon as I kill this third guy, I have 9 seconds to kill the other two. So I've done the bulk of the damage already. I'll turn my attention to this guy, use a weapon spec on him, and same thing on the last guy. Just use one weapon spec and that should kill him outright. Now, as long as I don't die to this final section of Kerapac, that should be all the clones dead within 9 seconds, granting me that achievement as you see in my chat box. The second mechanical achievement is to have all of your player clones survive, and the easiest way to do this is to enter the first clone at the start of the phase, drink a vitality potion, that's going to double the HP of that first clone of yourself, then enter a second clone. The vitality potion clone of yourself is going to be much more likely to survive while you kill the other two echoes of Kerapac. I'm going to try and kill it as fast as possible, just using whatever big hitting abilities I can think of. So make sure you have Invoke Death, Bloat, use weapon specs if you have them, use Death Skulls if you have them. Once you kill that first one, enter the second clone of yourself, and it might be a little bit low HP, so you might have to eat some extra food at this point, but just kill that second clone as quickly as you can, make sure that you're surviving, and after we kill the second Kerapac here, we can jump back into that third clone and finish off the third Kerapac. So that Vidpot strategy really is effective when going for this challenge. The last mechanical challenge is called Cannon Event, and we're going to want to purposely let a time thread spawn on each of the 3 initial phases, and then we'll just have to make sure that we survive for the whole kill. So you see in my footage here, I ended up bringing a mammoth full of extra food, and I even brought a tank switch with me if I wanted. So I'll kind of skip through this as we don't really need to watch the whole kill, but when it comes to the time threads, I'm going to try and position myself in a way that they're going to be spawning in places where they're not at risk of getting killed by any of my AoE abilities, especially Death Skulls bounces. Other than having to use Anticipation or Freedom to break the stun, praying magic, and maybe eating some extra food, everything else you do during this challenge should be like a normal Kerapac kill. So here's the clip where the third and final time thread spawns, and once we get to phase 4, I just want to be careful not to use any AoE abilities on the clones if I think that the time threads are close enough where my Death Skulls might bounce to them and kill them, for example. So it ends up being a little bit of a slow kill, but that's fine. This challenge is really more of a tank test than anything else. And with that, that should finish up all of the Kerapac Master achievements. Next up is the Magister, and all we need to do here is get a kill in under 12 seconds. The easiest way to do that, I believe, is by using Necromancy and following this rotation. For the Magister timer of under 12 seconds, we'll want to start by getting full soul stacks and 4 necrosis stacks at Wars. Bring a dummy with you and place it in the instance. Summon your conjures and use Living Death while building to full adrenaline. You should also build to full necrosis stacks now. Once you're ready, with full stacks and full adrenaline, use Invoke Death, Split Soul, command your skeleton, then start the fight. Dive to Magister, and then start with Death Skulls. Use 5-stack volley right after, then back-to-back Fingers of Death. Do tier 95 special attack, and then tier 90 special attack. And there you go, the boss is dead in under 12 seconds. This might just take a couple of attempts, but for reference, I got mine done here on the 4th kill using this rotation. Next up, we have normal Nex, and all we'll need to do is get a solo kill in under 1 minute 21 seconds. My relic setup, I'm using Heightened Senses for 110% adrenaline, Fury of the Small, and my utility relic of choice is the mobile relic Shadow's Grace. Quick notes on my preset, I have a pant switch that has clear-headed 4 on it to use at the start of the fight. That will prevent me from getting dragged on P1. I have Dominion Mines to use on Glacies. I have expensive spices, making my jellyfish heal just a little bit more. And I'm camping an Armadillo book. I brought full book with me, but it really wasn't necessary, as you'll see. Arrow-wise, I'm using my first auto attack of the fight with Blackstone arrows, then I'm using Fool and Wen arrows. Before the fight, make sure you have your Stone of Jas boost. That's a free 5% damage increase. When you enter the instance, I like standing on this tile, since when it comes time to killing the first minion, my character will only have to move over by 1 tile, and in the next phase, I'm going to be walking next through the cross section anyway. So starting here is convenient for me. When Nex says, fill my soul with smoke, you want to use the Anticipate ability with your clear-headed switch. This lines up at exactly 9 seconds on the timer, at which point you'll want to use ECB spec, then Vuln Nex, auto attack with BSA plus bulk spec, switch to your full arrows and rapid fire. You don't necessarily need to channel the full rapid fire here. You have to make a judgment call on when to target the minion based on things like your crackling going off or your armadillo book going off, or even the ECB damage that goes through just a little bit later. So when you feel confident that Nex is going to be phased at 160k HP, switch to your Wen arrows and then target Fumus. Conveniently now, we're going to be using the Wen arrows for the rest of the fight. Target Fumus and use Greater Ricochet. Important to note, you want to wait a tick after using Gricko before you target Nex again. That way the ECB damage actually goes through. To start the second phase, target Nex, use a fragmentation shot. Use Freedom and your APOT, ECB spec, auto attack Nex, and ideally use a dark bow spec with the bulk effect. So in this clip, since I didn't have my bulk stacks properly, I did a piercing shot to get up to 3 bulk stacks before I did my dark bow. You want to do all of this while running down the path to maximize the damage from that fragmentation bleed. In a really fast kill, you can even skip the Embrace Darkness special, which makes blood phase a fair bit faster. But in this kill I did not skip it. It's still fine for the master time. Target the minion and use Gricko. To start blood phase, use a piercing shot, followed by divert, and then ECB. If you skipped Embrace Darkness in the previous phase, you can go right into a rapid fire. If you did not skip it, use Snipe when Nex separates her arms and then follow it up with a rapid fire. Target the minion and use Gricko. To start the fourth phase, it's pretty similar to the second phase. Target Nex and use a fragmentation shot. Use Anticipation and your ECB spec. Auto attack Nex plus Snapshot, then use your bulk spec. Surge dive over to the minion, and you can place the minion mines right next to the minion. That can speed up your kill just a tiny bit. Target the minion and use Gricko. To start the final phase, ideally you target Nex and use Deadshot right away, but in this clip I used Corruption followed by Deadshot. I also opted to re-Eldritch Crossbow here, but whether or not you have to do that, you'll still want to kill this phase using your best rapid hitting abilities to bypass Nex's damage cap. It doesn't really matter what order you use them, but make sure that you're using Rapid Fire, Gricko, and maybe Piercing Shot if you need to. And there you have it. There's the rotation breakdown for a sub 1 minute 21 Nex kill. Let's watch the kill in full speed now. Alright, so I enter the instance, come to my favorite tile, and we're going to have to wait until the timer goes up to 9 seconds, at which point I'm going to anticipate with my clear-headed. I'm going to Eldritch Crossbow, then I'm going to target Nex, Vuln, and then auto bulk spec, follow it up with full arrows and rapid fire. When Nex is phased, I'm going to go to the minion, use Gricko on it, then wait 1 tick so the ECB damage goes through, target Nex, frag shot, Freedom and APOT, use ECB, walking down the tunnel, and then ideally I'd use Dark Bow if I had bulk stacks properly, but here I used Piercing Shot, then Dark Bow. Nex is phased so I can target the next minion, use Gricko, target Nex again, use Piercing Shot, and then in this clip, since I did not skip Embrace Darkness, I'm using Divert, followed by ECB, Snipe when Nex's arms open up, Rapid Fire to clear the blood phase. And once blood phase is phased, target the minion, use Gricko. We're using Gricko on every single minion. Same thing as we did on P2, target Nex, frag shot, anticipate, ECB, snapshot and bulk spec. And then I'm surging over to the minion, placing the minion mines, targeting the minion using Gricko, and then I'm trying to clear the final phase as fast as I can, so using my best rapid hitting abilities. In this case, I used Corruption Blast, Dead Shot, Frag Shot, I did re-ECB, and then finished off with Dazing Rapid Fire. Ideally, I would just be using Dead Shot, Rapid Fire, and Gricko, but as you can see, this works just fine for getting the next master kill. And there you have it. There's my full rotation breakdown for the next master speed kill. So for Nex Angel of Death, we have quite a few challenges in the Master tier. We'll need to get a kill in under 1 minute 21 seconds, and this is most easily done in a 7-man. We'll also need to get a duo kill, which is a pretty fun challenge. Then we have several achievements where we do mechanics correctly and incorrectly, so we'll have 1 kill where we don't kill any Reavers and let them get absorbed into Nex. Easiest way to deal with that is just by drinking a Vitality Potion when they get absorbed. On the flip side, we'll have to get a kill where we don't let any Reavers get absorbed, so we can either kill them or just skip them outright. We'll need to do 1 kill where we avoid all icicle damage, so if you get the ice mechanic, make sure to free your friends. On the flip side of that one, we'll have to do a kill where we tank all of the icicle damage, so don't free any of your friends. We'll have to do a kill where we pop all of the smoke pools simply by hitting the button, and we'll also have to do a kill where we don't pop any of the pools and just let them explode naturally, or we can skip them altogether as well. We'll need to do a kill where none of the smoke blades are hitting our characters, so an easy way to do that is just to have the players who get the smokes run to the walls in the arena, negating the smokes from spawning altogether. On the flip side of that that one, we'll have to do a kill where everyone is tanking all of the damage from the smoke blades, and the easiest way to do that one is to have everyone standing on top of each other. Next up, we'll have to do a kill where we kill all of the minions only after getting next to 600,000 HP, so we'll just have to make sure not to use any AoE abilities during that time. Then we have 2 achievements. One of them is called Popping Pillars, where we have to kill all of the pillars within 15 seconds of each other. And lastly, a kill where we place all of the bombs in the middle of the arena. So for this first AoD one, the speed kill, this is a controversial one, but fortunately, it's the only oddity in the whole master tier. The first thing I have to say about the sub 121 speed timer is that it is absolutely critical that everyone on your team follows the rotation to the letter. No improvising, no going off sheet, no changing the order of abilities. Even if it's the same abilities, the order matters. No pre-building nonsense at War's Retreat. Just stick to the sheet to the letter. For reference, I'll put the Necromancy sheets for base tanks and minion tanks on screen, as well as the range sheet. An ideal team composition might be 4 Necromancers and 3 Rangers. However, a common theme I experienced in a lot of attempts that I went on was firstly that you'd have 3 to 5 people on the team would not be following the rotation, so the speed kill was doomed from the start. The other major problem I experienced was that people would improvise things, theory craft new rotations, or change the order of abilities, screwing over the rest of their teammates in order to get a higher gem score. So if you're going for this speed, make 100% sure that everyone is actually committed to following the rotations precisely. Now, realistically, no one you can find casually is taking this seriously, which is unfortunate, and this was the single most frustrating and time-consuming achievement in the whole tier for me. Personally, I spent about 40 hours filling teams, sharing the rotations, literally calling out the abilities one by one in order, aloud in the voice calls, VOD reviewing with players on the teams, but all of this was to no avail. It was 40 hours of nonsense before I finally caved on the... Alright, putting aside that crash out, next up on the list of AoD achievements is the duo AoD kill, so here's a little quick talk through of one kill that I did with my buddy. I also actually have a full standalone solo AoD guide that's already out on my channel, so if you're interested in going a little more in depth on this one, maybe check out that video next. So my footage here of this duo AoD kill, I'll be the base tank player, and my friend will be responsible for minion tanking once we get to the minion section of the fight. And you can see in my inventory I have a hybrid setup with power armor and tank armor for more of the painful sections. We'll just be starting off relatively normally, trying to do our best necromancy damage. Whenever we do get to the elements, we do want to have one player who's tanking the elements, and we also want to have one player responsible for killing all the reavers. So easiest way to do that is to use Invoke Death early, Threads of Fate, and once the reavers are touching that first outer line of the octagon, use your tier 90 weapon spec to stun them, then Soul Sap and 5-stack volley. Another helpful tip to consider is to use the Demon Slayer sigil ability, which does actually work and increases your damage on the reavers. Once we get through that, we'll just carry on with the rest of the phase, trying to get next close to 2.1 million HP, but without actually phasing her. So we'll want to get her to about 2.15 or 2.17 million HP, leaving just a little bit of buffer room before actually phasing her. Ideally, we want to phase her at the same time that reavers would be spawning in. What this is going to do is trick the game into thinking that the reaver mechanic has already happened, but not actually spawn in reavers, so we won't have to deal with those guys, and we'll have a more favorable order of special attacks in the coming phase. The coming phase is going to be the trickiest part of the fight, so having that bigger window of time to deal damage and deal with the minions is going to be really beneficial to us. So it's definitely worth the time to delete your condors, take some time to just build some stacks, and AFK during this section. Once next turns and looks like she's going to spawn reavers, we'll then just dump a big ability like a 5-stack volley to phase her. You see that no reavers end up actually spawning, and we get the ideal phase time. Once the amalgamations are spawning in, one player will need to use Invoke Death, Threads of Fate, and some big hitting abilities to kill all of those amalgamations. So here I did 5-stack volley, Soul Sap, and another volley, and that kills all of the amalgamations, cutting the HP of all of the minions in half. Our next 2 goals are going to be to lure all of the minions and get next to 1.8 million HP. My partner is going to just try and focus on getting the aggro of all of the minions. There is a way to lure them all into the center, but to tell you the truth, it's not really that important. So here, even though it looks sloppy, he's just getting the attention of all of the minions, and we're luring them relatively close enough. As long as they're within Threads of Fate range, it's all good. When we can, you'll just want to use things like Invoke Death, big Threads of Fate, and if it's possible, you can also use things like Triple Scythe or even Blood Siphon to get some AoE damage off on all of the minions. Meanwhile, now that you phase next to 1.8 million HP, you will be receiving mechanics like Icicle attacks, Smoke Blades, and the pools. The pools are by far the most dangerous and the most annoying mechanic as they deal the highest damage to the players. Fortunately, since you're a team of 2, you're able to split that damage in half, and if you both go to the pools together, you'll each take 7,000 damage. So you can tank that pretty easily without needing a vitality potion. Just save your vitality potion if you ever need to solo tank a pool, for example. Here I'll speed through the footage as it's not going to be very interesting. We're just dodging mechanics, dodging the smoke blades, freeing each other from icicle attacks if we ever get those, and to the best of our ability, sharing the damage from the smoke pools. Our only goal here is just to survive and get next down to 600k HP. Once we get to 600k HP, it's pretty much like a normal kill, it's just going to be pretty slow. We'll try and focus on killing the pillars, dodging the shadows underneath our feet when it comes to the Umbra pillar, and keeping our prey magic active until we kill the Glacius pillar. You don't really want to risk using Soul Split until you kill the Glacius pillar, as you'll more likely get stunned, and that might end up costing you if you get shadows underneath your feet or a bad timing with a bomb mechanic. That's the nice thing about doing this in a duo, is you'll always have one player available to be doing damage on pillars or necks. So if you are the player who's getting the bomb mechanics, you can be more lackadaisical when it comes to dealing with those. You don't really have to juggle doing damage and placing bombs in safe locations as you would in a solo kill. So it's perfectly fine to play safe with those. You can see I ended up being the bomb tank for the majority of this kill, and my partner ends up carrying the majority of the damage. Once we do kill all the pillars, I'll take next towards the center. That way we're just a little bit closer when it comes to dealing with the bombs, and we don't have to worry about surging back and forth between pillars in the center. And at this point, it's really just staying alive and making sure we kill Nex. And there you go. That is a Nex Angel of Death duo. So the majority of these mechanical AoD achievements are pretty self-explanatory and honestly very easy. So we'll just blitz through most of these clips because, I mean, look at this, right? There's an achievement for freeing your friends from icicles, and all you have to do that is 20,000 damage. And there's also an achievement for pressing the button in the middle of a smoke pool. None of these really warrant a full guide. Now instead, I would highly recommend considering going for at least the unorthodox AoD kill. That is a Grandmaster achievement, but it's one of the easiest Grandmasters there is if you end up going for it. If you end up going for it, you'll bundle the 7 achievements that are related to taking damage or failing the mechanics in an unorthodox way. I am going to let the full unorthodox talk-through video I made play out in just a moment, but you'll see it covers all of the individual master achievements, like bombing mid, absorbing the Reavers, and tanking the smoke blades. So it's a really efficient way of tackling all of those achievements at the same time. The same logic applies with the perfect AoD kill. You'll bundle all of those mechanical achievements from the master tier, but that one can definitely be a little bit harder than the unorthodox, especially when it comes to the popping pillars achievement in a lower team size, for example. So I won't necessarily recommend going for the perfect while you're doing the master tier, but I would highly recommend bundling the rest of the achievements with the unorthodox kill. So here's the unorthodox kill, afterwards we'll cover popping pillars. So for phase 1, we will not be proceeding as normal, instead we'll aim to do very little damage. However, we can use this time to stack some things like the Lord of Bones defense reduction and Storm Shards, as there's not a whole lot better we can do with our time in this first phase. We will have to wait quite a while for that second cycle of Reavers. The first cycle will happen around 25 seconds into the fight, and we can lower the Reavers' HP a little bit, but after that it really is just a waiting game. At about a minute 40 on the clock, the second set of Reavers will spawn. On this cycle, we can actually kill one of the Reavers, since we let 3 go in on the previous cycle. Just communicate with your team who will kill a Reaver on the second cycle. In this case, I was that player. So now that we let 5 Reavers go in, we're going to be eligible for that portion of this feat. Next up, we'll phase next to 2.1 million HP and leave the amalgamations alive. We'll just focus on phasing next to 1.8 million HP at that point. Again, no one is allowed to use Threads of Fate or Skulls from here on out until 600k HP. Lure the minions to the center as normal, and then everyone should DD on the base tank. Now the fun part of tanking through all the stuns and all the mechanics begins. You can use Living Death here for sure, but again, I really don't recommend using Death Skulls just to avoid accidentally killing the minions. Instead, I would recommend spamming Necrosis abilities and Fingers of Death instead of Skulls. Make use of your weapon specs, bloat, and skeleton damage to reach the phase HP as quickly as you can. All the while, you'll just have to eat some extra food as needed based on the mechanics that you get. For the Smoke Blades, you could use Devotion and Pray Magic, you could also Reflect if you wanted, or you could rely on your Enhanced Devoted or Normal Devoted perk activating. The Smoke Pools are probably the most painful spec, so when you see those, you'll just want to eat a lot of food for those. And the Icicles are not especially punishing, but they might be the most annoying, as they will stun all of your teammates when those happen. I would not recommend moving out of the DD pile, just cause if you happen to get a Smoke Blade when someone was iced and they had just recently run out of the pile, you might fail that achievement. So just suffer through those stuns and let your Pack Yak and Necro Tank gear carry you. Once you get to 600k HP, now you can finally kill the minions. Use Death Mark, Threads of Fate, Volley, Sap, Volley, maybe even make use of triple Spectral Scythe and Death Skulls. Once we kill the minions, we're into the final phase, and all we'll need to do here is just focus on doing good damage, and if we get bombs, make sure we place those in the center. There aren't a lot of tips I can share with you for this part. You may just want to watch the current player who has a bomb to deal with. Watching their timer bar can let you gauge when the next bomb is going to happen, and if you wanted to play extra safe, you could try and build high adrenaline around the time that their bomb is going to be deposited, just in case you're the next player to get selected with a bomb. Having high adrenaline, you could use barricade or any other defensive to mitigate some of that bomb damage while you're standing in the center. You can see in my clip, I had a bomb and I just used reflect to mitigate a lot of that bomb damage while I was waiting for it to be deposited. You don't have to wait the full duration of your bar in the middle either. You can step out, wait until the bar is close to filling up, and then re-enter the middle. In any event, whatever you do, you'll just want to play safe with this mechanic and make sure that everyone lives. Try and do good damage on pillars and necks to finish the kill off quickly, and once the boss dies, that'll be the unorthodox AOD achievement completed. So there you have it, there's my video on how I completed another Grandmaster feat, completing the unorthodox AOD kill. If this was helpful, consider subscribing to my channel, as I'll be making videos covering every single combat achievement in the game. Share this video with a friend, leave me a comment, thanks for watching, and see you. Alright, so here's popping pillars. You can do this in 7-man, you're only doing it in 5-man if you're going for the perfect kill, which is what the clip is showing here. So when it comes to popping pillars, essentially what you want to do is have the base tank setting the pace for the team. The base tank is going to lower the HP of the first pillar down to about 35,000. The rest of the team will wait by pillar 2, and it's probably best if everyone else on the team is using melee for this feat. So if you are a melee player, you can optionally do a big setup with a natural instinct and a crit buff, but it's really not necessary. You'll want to have the team communicate and be following the base tank's cue. So ideally, you'll wait until someone is charging the bomb in the middle, and right around the time that their bomb is going to be fully charged, the base tank can then use Invoke Death, call out Go to the team, and then kill the first pillar. The timer will then start at that point. The player with the bomb will have just finished charging and is free to rejoin the fight. Everyone is using Berserk when the base tank calls Go, and then using big hitting melee abilities on all the pillars, things like Overpower, Dragon Claws, and Length Spec. Ideally, you don't want to have to use more than 2 abilities per pillar. So an example rotation might be, after the base tank kills pillar 1, everyone uses Fury and Overpower on pillar 2, Claw, pillar 3, Chaos Roar, Length Spec, the final pillar. So after the base tank kills his first pillar, he'll go directly to the 4th and final pillar. This might sound a little more complicated than it really is, but if you see from this clip here, it's essentially just doing 2 big melee abilities on every pillar. So at raids, we'll need to unlock the Golden Daredevil title. We'll also need to do a duo Beastmaster kill. Then we have 2 speed killing achievements, one to get a sub 45 Beastmaster kill and one to get a sub 3 Yakamaru kill. When it does come time for the Beastmaster speed kill, I will be recommending the Grandmaster Necromancy rotation, but trust me, it is very simple. It's really just 10 players using Necromancy, using a volley and a Death Skulls. It's definitely worth attempting that method when you go for Master, as you could also very easily end up getting a nice and easy Grandmaster. So first off for the duo Beastmaster kill. My clips will be from a solo kill, but mechanically nothing is going to change in your approach. The only advantage of doing this in a duo versus what you see here is you'll help out a friend with this achievement, and you have another player helping out the DPS. But mechanically, this is the same exact approach you want to take to a duo kill. The waves of Arets and Chargers are really nothing too fancy. You have a lot of great AoEs with Necromancy like Threads of Fate, Triple Scythe, and Death Skulls, so just play safe during the waves. You'll see that the actual Beastmaster portion of the fight requires little to no food, so if you need to eat up and play safe, I'd recommend doing that in the waves. The first pet can be killed pretty simply during a living death. There is actually an interesting mechanic that might save you some hit points. If you wear a range type glove or even a leather glove for the duration of the first pet, it's going to force its attacks to be more favorable against your player, dealing less damage overall. This is a pretty quirky mechanic and it's not really necessary either. You would be just fine without this, but if you are struggling on pet 1, consider bringing some leather gloves. The 2 waves of Arets after killing the first pet are probably the hardest portion of the whole fight, so I would recommend coming to the southwest corner, waiting until the monsters stack up, and then using things like Threads of Fate or Death Skulls to clear them. Now after killing the waves, I would recommend to despawn your conjures and come all the way into the southwestern corner. If you're waiting here, neither the pet nor Beastmaster will be aggressive to you at the start, and you can use this to lure the pet over without alerting Beastmaster. That will let you kill the pet at your own pace without any worry at all. To lure the pet, walk slowly 1 tile up at a time next to these charger cages. Once you get up to the final charger cage, the pet should take notice of you and then surge at you. He'll probably stun you when he does that, so use Anticipation or Freedom as necessary. While he's next to you, right-click and walk under the pet 1 tile diagonally northeast. That's going to put you under the pet, and it should force the pet to start walking south. Then you can just slowly walk all the way south with the pet until you're both in the southern corner again, and then you can just take your time killing the pet. It's going to look pretty funny, but Beastmaster will be off in the opposite corner, completely unaware of what's happening. Once you do kill the pet and you're ready for Beastmaster, summon new conjures, and our strategy is simply going to be to kite Beastmaster diagonally across the arena until we secure the kill. If we do this properly, Beastmaster will never be able to use melee attacks against us, so we'll be very safe overall, taking very little damage. But more importantly than that, if Beastmaster never uses a melee attack against us, the third pet will never even spawn in the fight. If you mess up and the third pet ever does spawn in, it's probably worth resetting and trying the fight all over again. So you see in my clip, once I'm ready to fight BM, I get my conjures, I surge in, and now I'm just going to be running back and forth diagonally across the arena for the next 5 to 10 minutes, however long it ends up taking to get the kill. While you're running, just keep using abilities, and once you get into one of the corners, you can use an ability to turn around facing Beastmaster and then just surge through him. You could also use dive to diagonally dive through Beastmaster. Really, the only goal is to never get meleeed, however you end up running. Again, as long as you never get meleeed, that third pet is not going to spawn in, and you'll have a nice easy kill on your hands. If you are doing this in a duo, like I said, the approach is exactly the same. You want one player doing the pet lure and one player responsible for running Beastmaster like this. The only real advantage is that the second player can contribute to the DPS. Make sure that player is also running diagonally, but maybe a few tiles away from Beastmaster. Try to be parallel with the player who's running BM. I think it's best to do this if you want to help out your friends and do the achievements together. I myself have now helped 6 of my friends with this duo, but since the crux of the strategy is really solo oriented, I recommend trying it out in a solo. Combat achievements are all about challenging yourself and pushing to improve at this game. So I'll encourage you to go for the maximum and get the Grandmaster achievement of soloing this. Then after you win, go back and help some pals. This is a team feat, and we're all going to be using Necromancy. Have one player using a Calgarian Demon, and the rest using Ripper Demons with Scrolls. Auto-fire set to 1, and attack option set to attack same target. During the waves, have every player build their stacks, ending the Errant waves with 12 Necrosis and 5 Soul stacks. When it comes to killing Cormies and the other monsters in the waves, just rely on your auto attacks, conjures, bloat, and your Ripper Demon. No need to waste stacks on any of these guys. The waves will finish fast enough. Once you finish the waves, have your 9 DPSers stand on the same tile right next to the northernmost gong. That puts you in an ideal spot where you can target cycle Pet 2 and the boss without risking ever getting meleeed by the boss, thus spawning the third pet. You can group Vengeance and re-calg at this time, and make sure someone uses Invoke Death now. When the timer hits 3 seconds, you want to use Split Soul, then Anticipate so you don't get stunned by the pet, then use Threads of Fate, and the very next global cooldown is the ideal target cycle timing. So again, wait 3 seconds on the clock, at 3.6 seconds you'll Split Soul, Anticipate, Threads of Fate. Bosses are spawning in now, so use Target Cycle, then use 5 stack Volley, tier 95 spec and drink your A-pot, tier 90 spec, and now the pet should be dead. Turn your attention to Beastmaster, who may be running towards the middle of the arena, depending on how your base tank is handling it. So be ready to dive towards the middle as not to lose your upcoming Death Skulls due to any kind of distance issues. Use Death Skulls on the boss and try and maintain a 5 to 6 tile range between you and the boss, so that your Death Skulls will still be bouncing. At this point, you can just improvise any 3 to 4 abilities, ideally Necrosis abilities like Auto, Touch, Auto, Finger, and the boss should be dead. Since I was basing in this video, my goal was never to get meleeed by Beastmaster. If I ever get meleeed, the third pet will spawn, essentially rendering Beastmaster damage immune, and our speed kill is dead. So since there is some visual rubber banding, and it's really hard to tell where Beastmaster actually is, I am trying to play a little bit more safe with my movement, potentially at the cost of some of my damage, but as you can see here, it works out just fine. I do my Threads of Fate just like the others at the start, then I dive away more towards the middle of the arena so that I can set up my diagonal run. That's going to be similar to how I do it in solo kills. While running diagonally across the arena, I try to surge through Beastmaster Durzag. I want to get to a corner, then use an ability once I'm in the corner. Using that ability will face me back towards Beastmaster, and then I can surge through him again. In a kill as fast as this, you should only have to do that a couple of times. So now let's look at the full speed kill. So now that all the waves are dead, go ahead and use Invoke Death, Recalc, and Group Vengeance if you want. Make sure all of the players are stacked by the gong, and if you're the base tank like me, I like to come around this spot in the northeast. 3 seconds on the clock, I'll use Split Soul, Anticipate, Threads of Fate, Target Cycle, 5 stack Volley. Since I'm the base, I'm also using Provoke at the same time with my 5 stack Volley. Then I go tier 95 spec, tier 90 spec. I dive towards the middle and Death Skulls, and then I just improvise with Necrosis. And there you have it. There's my full rotation breakdown. So for the Yakimaru speed kill, in the Master tier you'll need to get a sub 3-minute kill, and this is something that's been achievable for many years. Just look at this picture from 4 years ago on a team that I was on. So just to instill some confidence in any teams that are attempting this, we even managed to do the Grandmaster time with 8 Necromancers on the team. So this one isn't hard locked behind any crazy gear requirements. Instead, the most important thing to do when going for any Yakimaru speed kills is to have 4 players that are assigned to grab the poison on the very first pool. In most casual Yakimaru kills, there will only be one poison tank who's responsible to grab the poison on each of the 4 main pools and then disperse it into Yakimaru. The whole team will typically stop attacking the boss as not to reset the pool at that point and then just wait until the poison tank fulfills their role. This is a big time loss when going for speed kills. If you have 4 players grabbing poison on the very first pool, you can then just proceed to nuke every other pool for the remainder of the fight. There'll be no need to slow down DPS or stop attacking the boss altogether. So just coordinate which 4 players will be poison tanks and which pools they'll disperse their poisons on. This can maybe be a little bit more challenging for the player who's poison tank 4, as they'll have to tank the poison for a couple of minutes, but it's nothing that a few extra sips of brew can't take care of, and ideally the kill will be going fast enough that it won't be a big issue either. The only other recommendation I'll make for your team to consider is it could be worth having your poison tank 4 player be a ranged user. The logic there is that they'll be on the beach getting CPR'd around the same time that the Mirage phase is starting, and for the most part the CPR and the poison tank 4 will be pretty useless at the start of the Mirage phase. They're not going to be able to attack due to attack range if they're using Necromancy, Magic, or Melee, and well, they're also doing CPR. But if the poison tank is a ranger, that guy will actually have enough attack range with their bow to be able to attack the Tendril pool while they're getting CPR'd. So they could get off something like a Saren Godbow or a couple of other abilities and not be totally out of the fight. That's kind of a very minor optimization, but really the most important thing when going for this speed kill is to have those 4 poison tanks. Other than that, this would be perfectly winnable with 10 fairly casual Necromancers. Alright, welcome to my guide / talk through on how to complete the Golden Daredevil feat. This is a challenge to complete all of the Beastmaster challenges and all of the Yakimaru challenges in a single run without banking and without any players dying. So it's going to be a bit of a long challenge, definitely going to require a good amount of coordination, and if you're nervous, I would recommend taking a lot of food. You can see in these clips I have a pack mammoth with me full of brews, full of extra soups, and I even have a hellhound in the back just as extra precaution. There's really no need to have a big ego about this, just take whatever gear makes you feel comfortable and take the proper amount of food for yourself. So let's start by looking at the Beastmaster Durzag feats. We're going to have to keep Cormy's alive, he's the first pet that spawns, and then we're going to have to kill the other 2 pets using Beastmaster damage. So the easiest way to do that is by lowering the HP down to like 10,000 HP, maybe even 15,000 HP, luring Beastmaster bombs, and waiting for those to explode on the pets. They'll do about 2,000 damage each, so you might have to do a couple cycles of bombs, and another alternative is to drag the pets really close to Beastmaster, as his melee attacks are actually AoE, and they can kill the pets for you as well. Another challenge is to not open any of the charger cages throughout the fight, so no one should be doing north or south chargers, and ideally if you see anyone getting stuck in cages, just don't open them. Just let them wait it out. You want to have someone repairing all the gongs during the fight, and you also want to have a Gobi survive the fight, so the easiest way to do that is just to kill the Eret and charger waves as quick as you can. We'll kind of speed through the waves here until Cormy spawns, and as you can see when Cormy spawns, we have one player grab the aggression of Cormy's, head down to the southwest corner, and he's just going to be an AFK player. So just AFKing with Cormy's and making sure that no one is doing damage to Cormy's unnecessarily. So that'll be how you solve that first challenge. Next up, we'll speed through the fight a little bit until Beastmaster spawns and the 2 pets come out. Here when Beastmaster Durzag spawns, no one is going to be focusing on the charger cages, we're just going to be turning our attention right away to the pets. And we're also going to have one player who's running around the arena just clicking on the gongs in the 4 cardinal directions. That's all you have to do to repair them. Just run to them, click on them, and wait until it's repaired. Takes a few seconds for each one. You'll see we want to do damage to the pets. We want to bring them as low as we can without killing them. Ideally, no one is using poison damage, no one is using invoke death if they're a necromancer, and no one is putting any unnecessary bleeds or damage over time effects on the pets whenever they're starting to get low HP. It may be good to have one player dedicated to lowering the pets further aside from the pet tanks. So in this kill, I took that responsibility. I would only use my weakest attacks on the pets to lower them. I would use like Rack, maybe Sacrifice, just any really low damaging attacks to lower those pets' HP closer to 10,000. Then we'd want to have all players waiting near the pets, having high HP, and waiting until Beastmaster Durzag throws out his bombs. Once he does, you want to pray magic, and as you can see here, we killed both pets in one shot, which is really great. If you were unable to kill the pets with the bomb damage, one last resort alternative is to either Voke Beastmaster and bring him towards the pets, or to try and bring the pets really close to Beastmaster. If Beastmaster melees, those melees will actually be area of effect attacks, and they can also kill the pets, counting for this achievement. But as you saw, if you followed this strategy, we killed the pets with the magic bomb damage just fine, and as long as we kill Beastmaster here, that'll be all of the Beastmaster Durzag feats completed. Once you get the kill, you should see a message in your chat box saying you've made progress towards Champion of the Gobies, 5 out of 10. To move on to Yakamaru without leaving or banking, we can go all the way to the southwestern corner, and I actually never knew this existed until going for this feat, but crawl through the tunnel, you'll get placed up in another tunnel, enter this third tunnel, and you'll be into the jellyfish puzzle. Clear the jellyfish puzzle if you need, but make sure that you're not banking at the Gobi banker. In this kill, this was actually our second attempt, so we had already completed the puzzle, and it just puts us straight into Yakamaru. So now let's look at the Yakamaru feats. We're going to have to do essentially 2 Yakamaru kills in one, thanks to the rewind feat. But in the first cycle, we're going to want to do the All Together Now feat, which is where during the Mirage phase, we kill all of the Mirage pools within 5 seconds of each other. I'll explain how to do that once we get to Mirage phase. During this first cycle, we're also going to go for the Asphyxiate feat. So we're going to have one Major on the team who's going to use Asphyxiate, and all of the other members can go to the far southernmost point of the arena. That way they'll be out of range and they won't even be affected by the Asphyxiate. The other feats are to keep a durable and a reflecting jellyfish alive throughout the kill. So we're going to do that on the second cycle of Yakamaru after the rewind, and we're going to have a dedicated jellyfish tank dealing with those. Another feat is for every single player to grab poison on the final pool, and then only one player will clear it, then the other 9 players will tank it through Mirage. The last feat is called the Rewind feat, and we'll do that by completing a normal kill of Yakamaru, saving a durable jellyfish, and then luring that durable jellyfish back to the middle pool when Yakamaru is 50,000 HP, and that will essentially just reset the fight in its entirety. The special roles that I'd recommend you assign are a Magician to use Asphyxiate, a dedicated jellyfish holder to keep the aggression of the durable and reflecting jellyfish, as well as keep them far away from other players so that AoEs don't accidentally kill them. You want to have 2 players pre-filling the sand pool and 2 players pre-filling the tendril pool during the first Mirage phase. If you have 3 players per pool, you can only ever fill a maximum of 9 sands, so you're never at risk of overfilling the pool and failing the attempt. 1 player can do a maximum of 3 sand fills per cycle, and that'll put you at 9 out of 10. It makes the All Together Now feat really simple. And lastly for Yakamaru, these are what I would recommend for the normal roles. You can combine a few roles, and that will just free people up to be pre-fillers during the All Together Now attempt. So let's start looking at the kill. In this case, we got the tendril pool as our first pool. So we're going to do the first 3 pools essentially exactly as normally. One good tip is after phasing shark pool, you want to focus on jellyfish. One good tip is that after the shark pool, you want to focus on killing jellyfish. That way you don't phase too early into the sand pool and risk having your team get sanded at a bad time. If your team gets sanded at a bad time while there's still the CPR and the poison tank on the beach, it can make freeing people really tricky. So just focus on killing the jellyfish and then phasing into the sand pool. So now that we're finally on the stun pool, we finally have a couple feats to go for. First off is the Asphyxiate feat. So everyone else is going to run to the southernmost point of the arena. They're going to be completely out of range of Yakamaru. They won't be affected by any of the Asphyxiate damage, and it just makes it easier. We don't have to use intercept on 10 people. The only tip I recommend for those players who are going south is you just want to keep yourself in combat. So you can do that by spamming darkness or just using some defensives to keep yourself in combat. We actually both asphyxiated, and that really doesn't cause any problems, just guarantees that we get that feat. Next up, before Mirage phase on this first cycle, we're going to want to have our dedicated jellyfish wrangler grab the durable jellyfish. It happened to be that we got the durable jellyfish on this cycle before Mirage, but if the durable jellyfish was out on the third pool, you would want to have your jellyfish tank grab it early and just leech for the fourth pool. So as you can see here, the jellyfish wrangler So as you can see here, the jellyfish tank grabs his durable jellyfish and goes far away from all the other players, just tanking that durable jellyfish, keeping it alive, and keeping it out of range of any AoE attacks. Once we start Mirage here, we're going to go for the All Together Now feat. So you want to have all your players at their assigned pools. In this case, I'm the North tank, and I have 2 players with me who are dedicated North tank pre-fillers. We're going to kill our pool one time and then spam click to pre-fill it. The Tendril pool is also going to do the same thing. Meanwhile, the Shark and the Stun pool tanks are going to want to keep their pool's HP relatively high. They're not going to want to kill their pools at all until the entire team is ready to kill them all together. So we're going to wait until Sand pool and Tendril pool are happy with their pre-fulls. Make sure that you're also ready to grab your teammates out of the quicksand on the sand pool, and just communicate with your teammates on how many sands are ready and what the HP situation is looking like on every pool. You can see here the Tendril pool is like 45,000 HP, very close to being in deathmark range, so a nice ideal setup for that Necromancy stun tank. Once Sand pool and Tendril pool are ready, we're going to communicate, we're going to say kill everything now, we're going to dump our best abilities, run back into our pools, and just click them and fill them up. The 2 Sand pools will be filled instantly because we pre-filled them up to 9 out of 10. The Shark pool will be filled by the guy with the 10 planks, and here I had to use an extra ability to help out the stun tank, and then he got it closed with his 10 planks, and there you go, that's all the pools killed and filled within 5 seconds. Now, before we kill Yakamaru, we want to be very, very careful that we're not using Deathmark or killing Yakamaru too early, and we want to let the jellyfish tank lure that durable jellyfish into the middle pool. Yakamaru will absorb the durable jellyfish, and that will start the rewind feat. So now it's essentially going to be restarting the Yakamaru kill in its entirety. We have 3 out of 5 feats completed now. Now in this second cycle, the first 2 pools are going to be exactly as normal. Once you get done with the second pool though, it's going to be very important that your jellyfish tank is ready. His role starts now. He's going to be basically out of commission for most of the rest of the fight. Communicate with your teammates. If you have a deflecting jellyfish, you're also going to want to keep one of the other jellyfish alive. Doesn't really matter which one, but so long as one of these other colorful jellyfish is alive, the deflecting jellyfish won't be able to die. So make sure your jellyfish tank will grab one of the colorful jellyfish and the deflecting jellyfish and head off to Narnia. Ideally, he'll be out of attack range of Yakamaru, and that'll make his role nice and easy. After you've confirmed your jellyfish tank has either the durable or the reflecting plus the colorful, kill the pool as normal. On to the final pool. The most important feat we get here is for all players to grab poison. The easiest way to do that is to have all players stand on the exact same tile. So you can see in this clip, I'm spamming the letters DD, that stands for Death Dot, or everyone stand on top of me. And the reason you do this is because the poison can spawn within 5 tiles of any player. If players are spread out all around, it's impossible to predict where the poison will spawn. If players are all standing on the exact same tile, the poison will only be a maximum of 5 tiles away. So we're all standing on this tile. You could even delete your conjures if you want to get rid of some of the visual bloat. Be slow for the poison to spawn, and then everybody grab the poison. Important to note that your jellyfish tank should also grab the poison at this point if he has not already. You want to confirm that all 10 players have poison. If someone missed the poison for any reason, it's okay. The kill is still fine. You'll just have to kill Yakamaru without anyone depositing the poison melee distance, and just restart the pool. Then once again, let everyone grab poison. But in this case, as you can see, we got it first try. So after we phase this pool, it's going to be time for the jellyfish tank to do the second part of his job, and that's to grab the other special jellyfish. In this case, he already had the deflecting jellyfish, and now he has to grab the durable jellyfish. So you could wait until the jellyfish tank does that and then moves out of range, but here we just opted to essentially just do a normal Mirage phase. Luckily, we don't have to be as coordinated with the timing. We can just kill the pools as fast as we possibly can. Here you can see I start eating a lot, as I'm just trying to communicate with my team and having a little bit of a hard time focusing on my own role. So I'm just trying to play extra safe. Try and make sure that everyone else is fine as well, coordinating where the jellyfish are. So you can feel free to flame me for eating this much, but we got the kill done and that's what matters. Anyway, complete the Mirage phase as normal. And the final important thing to note here is that you want your jellyfish tank to bring the 2 special jellyfish back in range of Yakamaru's attacks. If the jellyfish tank is too far out in Narnia and the jellyfish are not in range of Yakamaru's attacks, that feat will not actually trigger, and you will fail the Golden Daredevil attempt. But here you can see the jellyfish tank brought them back in range just in time, and we completed every single Yakamaru achievement, unlocking the Golden Daredevil title.
Nice job, guys.
So there you have it. There's my talk through on how to unlock the Golden Daredevil title. Next up is Raksha. We need to get a sub 1 minute 42 kill, and then we have a few mechanical achievements. So we got to do one kill where we don't get any shadow energy at all. We'll also have to do a kill where we get full shadow energy in the first phase. This is commonly referred to as Scenario 7. We have a couple achievements, one to tank every rockfall, so when rockfalls start in phase transitions, we'll want to stand completely still. We'll also have to do a kill where we're using the correct protection prayer against all of Raksha's auto attacks, but we should be doing that anyway. Then we'll have to do a kill where we kill all of the pools properly, and again, we should be doing this anyway. We should never be entering P4 with any shadow pools. The last mechanical achievement is to never get a tail swipe on phase 4, and force the special mechanic to be an anima bomb throughout the entirety of phase 4. Now when we do get to the Raksha speed kill, I will end up showing kind of a worse / easier version of the Grandmaster speed kill, and this may seem like a little bit of a cop-out when it is technically possible with Necromancy. However, I tried Necromancy, and it was nowhere near as consistent as you would want it to be. It's one of those kills that's heavily reliant on crits and great Jazzbook procs. It's kind of like those Necro Sanctum kills, which are heavily RNG, and they only end up giving you the desired time with a tick or two to spare. So I'd very strongly advise against trying the Necromancy speed kill, and instead take a little bit of time to learn ranged here. Not only is this one of the best bosses to practice ranged, but I would be willing to bet that you'd spend 8 to 10 hours grinding for the Necro RNG versus just a couple of hours learning the ranged rotation. And ultimately learning that ranged rotation is going to help you improve at the game and set you up better long term when it comes to pursuing more speed kills and maybe even going for Grandmaster. Right, I'm going to be doing the no rockfall challenge and the no tail swipe P4 challenge in the same kill, so gonna treat it for the most part as a normal kill that we might get a pool skip. So once you phase the boss, just make sure you're standing still. We can use Reflect, Vitality Potion if we wanted to tank through the rocks, and just eat some extra food. Not too big a problem. I'll also extend my Condors here, go ahead and command Skeleton, and we're going to get Mind Flays as our next spec. So Living Death here. And I'm realizing I'm on the wrong relic setup, so I'm probably not going to get a pool skip, but that's fine. Just standing still during the rock falls, that's the achievement we're going for. We can use Disrupt if we want, and I'll even Vitpot this. Just want to make 100% sure that we don't move until all the rocks have fallen. So going into P4, we're going to want to force getting the Shadow Bomb instead of the Tail Swipe. So to do that, we're going to be standing outside of melee distance. Just doing our best damage. I'll do a tier 95 spec, and after 2 auto attacks, I'm going to want to use Anticipate or Freedom. You'll place a bomb down, and we just run away. It's going to be the same thing here, 2 auto attacks, and then just want to use Anticipate or Freedom. This can be done easier with a clear-headed switch. You can actually make clear-headed last the duration of 2 of those bombs. And here, I'm going to want to wait out my anticipation cooldown actually. So I'll just hide behind the pillar and wait that out. Not a problem. So 2 more auto attacks. He'll do a bomb. Just trying to do some damage in the interim. Can take it slow and steady. Not too big a problem. Freedom for this one. I'm going to have to get new Condors here. Here I don't actually have freedom, so I'll just have to tank through this. You can spam Resonance and get a big heal from that. Anticipate now. And here I'll activate my action button and try and do my best damage. So we're going to have to tank this one again. But there we go. There's a kill where we tanked all the rocks and where we forced all of the specs in P4 to be the bomb attack. This is going to be a Scenario 7 kill at Raksha. This is a Master Combat achievement. So it's going to take about 5.5 minutes to fully set this up. All we're going to want to do in this first phase is just let Raksha go through its attack cycle a bunch of times until we fully charge the bar of shadow energy. So we really don't want to do a whole lot of damage. Like I said, it takes 5.5 minutes, and it would be easy to overkill Raksha accidentally. Even though Raksha heals, it doesn't really heal that much, so we'll just do our best to dodge mechanics. And we're going to want to remember how we do Scenario 7, as this is going to be a part of the Unorthodox Grandmaster achievement. So just going through the kill as normally, anticipating preemptively for that Shadow Bomb attack, and then I'll step out of the way. We can use Storm Shards during this, as that might help us a little bit in Phase 4. We have enough time where we can stack just about 10 Storm Shards. If you don't have those, it really doesn't matter that much. It won't make or break the kill at all. You could also summon a Phantom Guardian if you wanted to reduce the damage a little bit. You could be using a Hellhound. I'm actually not using any familiars, but you'll see we'll be just fine. You can also make use of Preparation to lower our Resonance cooldown, and we can try and grab some big resonances off some of Raksha's auto attacks. So now we've let Raksha do 2 full attack cycles in the first phase. Raksha will do a tail swipe, followed by a bomb, followed by a tail swipe, another bomb, another tail swipe, and then she'll do this charging mechanic you're about to see here. So she charges up to 30% in the first cycle, does 5 big blasts of energy. I'll res the first one, and then Devotion, Pray Magic for the next 4. Then we're just going to have to repeat this cycle 2 more times, just as you saw. We're going to have one final set of these blast attacks. So I'll resonance this, Devotion the next 4. And once the blast attacks start, it's just going to be a kill as normal, except everything is going to do more damage. So I'll start off with a Split Soul, tier 95 spec, making sure I'm doing my prayer flicks properly. I'll disrupt this next hit, just dump my big auto attacks, just dumping my big abilities, making use of Death Skulls, Necrosis, and when Raksha's about to tail swipe, I'll dodge out of the way of that. Can redo my skeleton here, see if we can phase it before we get the bomb attack. Alright, we phased it, so now we just want to be dodging the rocks. We don't have to do anything too perfectly now, just playing safe. Like I said, everything does a lot more damage, as you'll see. So when you res, you can pretty much res to full. And now I'm going to be focusing on building up to my Living Death. I'm going to have to get new Conjures, try and expel all the Mind Flays. There's going to be 5 of them now that we've set up Scenario 7. And now I'll just go for my big Living Death. I have the wrong relic setup. This is my ranged relic setup, so I am a little bit not used to the adrenaline. That's fine though. Like I said, really don't have to do anything too perfectly anymore. Just gotta get the kill. So just dodging rocks, can disrupt to be safe. I'll bloat this first section of pools, use threads, and any attacks will kill the pools with Threads of Fate. They're only 1000 HP. I'll clean up those stragglers there. I will go ahead and get rid of the Shadow Manifestation, just makes my life a little bit easier. And we're going to get another Mind Flay attack here. I'll launch a Death Skulls, refresh my bloat. The next special attack in 4 autos is going to be the bomb attack, but you'll see he's going to do a lot more bombs than he normally would. So just make sure that you're anticipated around the 3rd or 4th auto attack. I'm going to summon new Conjures, and just running around the room, dodging all of those bombs. Careful to grab a Resonance, make sure he's full HP. Careful with the prayer flicks. And now we're on to the final phase. So I'll start with the final phase with a tier 95 spec, refresh my bloat, And just do some necrosis abilities, dodging out of the tail swipe, walking back in afterwards, going into Death Skulls, one more tail swipe here, see how much damage we can do before we get the shield. So here he's going to do the shield. The shield's going to have a lot of HP because of the Scenario 7. So I'll try and 5-stack volley that and even tier 90 spec it. But if for any reason you're not confident you'll get it, you can just stand behind the pillars and wait that attack out. I'll walk around the arena, try and get some shadow energy. Living Death again, use my action button. And now just try and do my very best damage. Every 2 auto attacks, I'm going to want to step out of the way of the tail swipe. Just being careful of that. So again, 2 auto attacks, step away. Also want to make sure the boss is invoked. And there you have it. There is a Scenario 7 kill at Raksha. Alright, I really think the easiest way to get the sub 142 minute kill at Raksha is essentially to do the Grandmaster strategy, at least for the first phase or two, and then even if you have a really bad kill, you'll be getting a sub 142 with so much more leeway than Necromancy, Magic, or Melee can offer you. So, as complicated as it is, I'll try and do a dumbed down version without quite as many arrow swaps. I will still be stalling the Tsunami off of the PVM hub dummy, and I have a full breakdown of this coming up in the Grandmaster section. But release Tsunami on the dummy, build some wind stacks with Gricko and Dazing. Surge in, Death Swiftness, Anticipate, ECB, and then 5 abilities. Going to be Gricko, Rapid Fire, then we'll do Bolg, Snapshot, and then Dark Bow.
You may think you hear it speaking.
Then we can do Tendril, Dazing, Incendiary Shot, ECB again. We can Dark Bow, Gricko, Rapid Fire, and then I'll do Snapshot, SGB, Dark Bow, Gricko, and I'll even Dark Bow again, since I didn't phase it here. Just trying to build some adrenaline. I was on the wrong arrows the whole time. I've been on Death's 4 arrows, so not trying to be too fancy. You can use your wand spec if you want. And then I will Tsunami there. Try and build some Death Spore stacks. And then Incendiary Shot. Now I'll ECB and just try and do my best abilities here. So Rapid Fire, Snapshot, couple of Dark Bows, activate the action button if you got it, and you just get so much adrenaline there, you see. So again, just trying to follow the Grandmaster strategy, at least for the first phase or two, and then you can really just improvise and still have so much leeway on that master time. You could do this with Necromancy. In my opinion, it's just so much more consistent with range. You have so much more leeway to make mistakes than you do with Necromancy, or even Magic or Melee. So that's what I recommend, and we're going to have to get the Grandmaster speed kill anyway, so learning at least those first 2 phases will come in really clutch for the master time. Next up is Rasial, and all we'll need to do in the master tier is get a sub 1 minute kill, and then we have 2 mechanical challenges. One where we stand completely still on phase 4 for 45 seconds, otherwise known as the connection lost challenge, and the other where we get a perfect kill. So that entails things like not getting hit by the volley, not getting hit by his minions, not getting hit by his finger of death on phase 4, and not getting hit by the ghost wall. So I'll talk you through all those achievements as we go. And then I'll start with a bloat, tier 95, and try and do a good tier 95 rotation before building up to Living Death. We might get pillar spawns relatively early in the kill, so if we do, we're going to want to turn our attention towards those. We want to kill those as fast as possible. Don't want to let those have any chances of giving Rasial any extra souls. So now I have good adren, I'll Living Death, running away from the minions. Dang it. My Death Skulls is probably going to kill those. So just making sure we're playing safe and trying to do some good damage on Rasial. Go into another Death Skulls here. And I'll probably split soul for this last phase. Dodging the ghost walls. Don't want to take any unnecessary chances. Once the pillars come back up, make sure we're killing those fast. Don't let them give Rasial any soul stacks if you can help it. Back on Rasial. Just got to phase into 200k HP here. And just because I want to play extra safe, I'll summon some new conjures here. Now that we're in P4, just be running around. Try not to get hit by any of the Fingers of Death. Just doing whatever damage we can. Using our necrosis abilities, using our weapon specs. Alright, we're close to being in P4 now, so I'm just going to summon some brand new conjures. And I'm going to want to be careful with my damage. Don't want to accidentally overkill him. 45 seconds is a lot of time. So I'll start by grabbing a Resonance. Then I'll go Reflect, Debilitate. And just eating my food. Want to make sure I get back to 100% adrenaline so I can barricade. I'll put on my Turtling Legs. Activate my Excalibur so I get some extra healing passively. I'll go ahead and barricade, and now that's about 15 seconds of free damage immunity. I can take off my Turtling Legs here, and I'm going to be building back up so that I can use Reflect and Debilitate once more. But first I'll use Devotion. Could have waited a couple seconds there. Grab one more Resonance, why not, can't hurt. Reflect and Debilitate. Any moment now we should get the eligibility message. So now that I'm eligible, just going to finish off the boss. Big volley, and there you go. There's connection lost. Please wait. Alright, for the sub 1 minute solo, first off we're going to want to build all of our stacks at the PVM dummies. So we want to get 5 stacks of souls, ideally 8 stacks of necrosis, and it can help to get 5 stacks of the auto attack charge so that your first auto attack is going to be a supercharged auto attack. So once you have all your skulls, we're going to want to run, not teleport, otherwise we'll lose all our stacks, back to the crystal at the start of PVM hub. And we're going to want to wait until we lose combat to do our conjures. We want to be wearing our EOF when we do the conjures, that way they do slightly more damage before we switch to Salve Amulet. So some of the conjures, extend them here, split soul, and then refresh your split soul by clicking on the altar. Quickly surge dive to the instance. It's going to be 3 GCDs until target cycle, so enter the instance. Ideally, you do it a little faster than I did here, but 3 GCDs will do Ghost, Invoke Death, and then Anticipate. Switch to Wand, target cycle Smoke Cloud, Death Skulls. Use your Undead Slayer Sigil, and then 5-stack Volley plus Adrenaline Potion in the same tick, Soul Sap, Living Death, then Touch, Death Skulls, Soul Sap, split soul again, use Bloat, and then use Skeleton, then use Divert. This lines up perfectly with this big attack. Use Soul Sap one more time, then back into Death Skulls. Use your Necrosis abilities here, Finger, Touch, Finger, Auto, Finger. And here you can see I switched my Grimoire as I already got my second Jaspuk proc, so not expecting to get another Jaspuk proc this kill. Might as well use the Grimoire. Use the Necrosis abilities, go into Death Skulls, and then now we're going to improvise until P4. So I'm going to do something like a Soul Sap, explode my zombie, and just build a little bit of adrenaline while he's transitioning in the phase. Ideally, you can get a Skeleton off, and then depending on your Death Skulls cooldown, you may want to use one ability beforehand, but here I'm going to use Volley right away, then Death Skulls, then Tier 95 Weapon Spec, use the Supercharged Auto Attack, switch to your Tier 90, and then Tier 90 Weapon Spec. It might die there, and if not, you just have to do one more basic like I did here, and there you go. 58.2 seconds. There's a Rasial kill in under a minute. Really, really terrible experience not doing this with tier 100s. I really hope I get some drops soon and I can buy a tier 100 because this was not fun to grind out with tier 95. But it is possible, as you can see from this clip, and I wish you luck if you go for it. So there you go. There's all the combat achievements at Rasial completed. If you found this helpful, be sure to subscribe, as I'll be making videos covering every single combat achievement and every single boss for every single tier. So again, if you enjoyed, share it with a friend, leave me a comment. Thanks for watching. See you next time. Next up is Rise of the Six, and in the Master tier, all we need to do is get a sub 6-second kill. So this method is super simple. You want to get 12 Necrosis stacks at Wars, start the Rots instance, everyone use Split Soul, Invoke Death, Threads of Fate, and tier 90 weapon spec. Rots brothers only have 50,000 HP. The tier 90 weapon spec is going to do 30,000 damage. You have 2 players doing that, and you have the added insurance of Death Mark and Split Soul. So there should be no reason that they don't die to the tier 90 spec, but if for any reason they don't, you can use something like a tier 95 spec or a 5-stack volley afterwards. But you'll see, they die in 1 or 2 abilities maximum with Threads of Fate. Next up, we have the Sanctum of Rebirth, starting with Vermyx. And for Vermyx, we'll need to get a sub 1 minute 21 kill, as well as a perfect kill. The perfect kill entails things like not being hit by Wormfire, not being hit by any Moonstone shards, redirecting all of the souls successfully, never letting a Scarab healer reach her, and not being hit by the Soul Bomb attack. While you're doing the speed kill, you'll basically have to do all of this in order to meet the time anyway, so I'm just going to be covering the speed kill. Start by building 15 Wen arrow stacks at PVM hub, and then stalling Incendiary Shot off of the dummy. Enter the Sanctum instance and maintain your stall by using Lord of Bones or the Darkness incantations. I like to cast one of those just before crossing over this little agility obstacle, as it is a fairly lengthy animation, so it's probably the only time that you could accidentally lose your stall due to dropping combat. I'll cast it once more when I cross over, and just ensure that my Calgarian Demon spec is active. When I'm ready to start the kill, I'll dive in towards Vermyx and release my Incendiary Shot with an Eldritch Crossbow spec. Immediately after that, I'll rapid fire. Then I will do Seren Godbow, followed by Zamorak Bow, and end with Bolg spec. This should phase the boss, so I'll now turn my attention to the left coil spawn, and I'll do a Wen Spore Gricko to build stacks with both arrows. Here I got lucky, and I got to 4 Death Spore stacks right away. I'll do another couple of abilities to get the full 5 stacks, and then I want to do Natural Instinct around the time I'm stepping into that first box. I'll then switch back to Wen arrows, Eldritch Crossbow spec, and Piercing Shot to get back to full adrenaline. After stepping into that third and final box, I'll dive back over to Vermyx and place my Death Swiftness. In my Swiftness, I'll use Gricko, and that should get me to near full adrenaline while I'm under crit buff and natty. I'll do Dark Bow with a Bolg proc, rapid fire, and then Dark Bow again, and that should phase it into P2. Now turn your attention to the second coil spawn and switch to your magic weapons. Use Concentrated Blast and any basic ability to get the 4 Insight Fear stacks, then cast Tsunami. Switch back to your Bolg and start entering the yellow boxes. You'll have plenty of range to attack the coil spawns and build your arrow stacks now. Prioritize using Gricko and Piercing Shot to build stacks faster. Ideally, you want to have 15 Wen arrow stacks by the end of the coil spawn phase. You could also divert near the end of the phase if you need more adrenaline, like I did here. Make sure that you Eldritch Crossbow around the time you're entering that third and final box. Then it's time to finish off Vermyx. Dive back to your Swiftness, then fully channel your Rapid Fire. Use Seren Godbow, Dark Bow, and when your Wen arrows run out, you'll want to switch to full arrows for the remainder of the kill. So here I switch to full arrows, I use my Bolg spec, and then Gricko. To finish off the boss, you want to do 2 of the abilities that hit twice, so that you can get a Bolg proc on the second ability. That should guarantee that you kill the boss if you're still in Swiftness. So depending on your adrenaline after Gricko, you could Zamorak Bow twice, you could Z-Bow D-Bow. In my kill, I ended up doing Snapshot Dark Bow, and my Swiftness actually ran out, so the boss did not die. So I just ended up using Shadow Tendrils to finish it off quickly. Ideally, it'll die with those last hits in your Swiftness, but the most important thing is that the boss hits 0 HP no later than a minute 13 on the clock, as you see here in my kill. This is another annoying boss just like Kazalam that has an egregiously long 7-second death animation. So I hit 0 HP at a minute 13 on the clock, and thankfully that's enough to get me the master timer by a whole tick. A minute 20.4. I was a bit lucky. I managed to get this kill in 9 minutes of attempts. The rotation was quite consistent overall. Even the couple of fails that I had were only a couple seconds off, no more than 1 or 2 abilities. So this was a much nicer kill to go for than Kazalam in my opinion. That said, I'm glad to be done with this boss, so now let's look at the full speed kill. I'll start by building 15 Wen stacks at PVM hub and stalling my Incendiary off the dummy. Then I'll enter the instance, make sure I'm maintaining my stall by using darkness before I cross over the gap. Once I cross over, I'll use darkness once again, make sure my calc is active, and when I'm ready, I'll dive into Vermyx, release my incendiary with ECB, go into a rapid fire here, fully channeling that, at which point I will cast Seren Godbow, Zamorak Bow, and then my Bulk Spec. That phases the boss. I'll turn my attention to the left coil spawn, get a Wendspore Gricko, do another ability to get to 5 Death Spore stacks, Natural Instinct around the time that I enter the first box. Around the time I enter the second box, I'll use Eldritch Crossbow and then Piercing Shot with Wen Arrows to build stacks and get back to full adrenaline. Dive over to Vermyx, place my Swiftness, target Vermyx and use Greater Ricochet, then Dark Bow, followed by a full channel Rapid Fire, and finish off the phase with another Dark Bow. I switch to my magic weapons here, target the next coil spawn, do Dragon Breath and a Concentrated Blast. That gets me to 4 stacks for my Tsunami. Then I'm just building back my Adrenaline and my Wen Arrow stacks with my Bulk. I still have plenty of range to attack the coil spawns, even if the boxes are far. Once I collect all the boxes, I'll Divert and ECB Spec, then dive back over to Vermyx, full channel Rapid Fire, use Seren Godbow, Dark Bow, Bulk Spec, switch to my full arrows since my Wen Arrows ran out, use Gricko, and then ideally finish the boss off with 2 abilities. Here I did Snapshot, Dark Bow, and then Tendril to finally secure the kill. And there you have it. Wasn't a whole lot of leeway, but a kill is a kill, and that's the most important thing. So that's my rotation breakdown on how to get the master time at Vermyx. If it was helpful, be sure to subscribe, as I'll be making videos like this for every single boss's master and grandmaster speed time. Share it with a friend and leave me a comment. Thanks for watching, and see you next time. Next up in the Sanctum is Kazalam, and for this we'll need to get a sub 2 minute kill as well as a perfect kill. So the perfect kill entails not being hit by the Sanctum blast attack, not being hit by any soul bombs, successfully killing the Moonstone before you get hit by the bomb, and not letting any scarabs explode. Realistically, we'll be doing all of this while going for the speed kill, otherwise it's unlikely you'll meet the time anyway, so I'm just going to be covering the speed kill. I'm going to start by pre-death marking both pillars and building some stacks on them. Normally you could pre-build stacks at Wars, but entering the Sanctum will clear all of your stacks. That's not a problem though, as we can just run around the perimeter of the Kazalam room and build on the pillars without being spotted or starting the fight early. Pre-applying Deathmark on both of the pillars will also save us 2 global cooldowns worth of time in the fight overall. Maybe it's a bit cheesy, but you'll see in a handful of the world record videos people building off of these pillars, and a lot of the master or grandmaster times can be achieved by copying and modifying the world record strats to meet your skill level, so I don't feel too badly about using this tech. I will mention that the better players rot that I'm piggybacking off of here did not need to do this, but again, I'm just demonstrating how I got mine done, and any time save is welcome in my book. Once you have your stacks, use Invoke Death, Conjure Army, Life Transfer, Command Ghost, Split Soul, then Command Skeleton. Surge into Kazalam and use Bloat to start, then Volley, followed by Soul Sap. Now use Death Skulls, and here is where you'll want to do that 0-tick Soulfire spec. If that's not doable for you, just do it with your wand and forget about the offhands altogether. When I was attempting this without the 0-tick and just using the wand, I felt like the damage difference was about 10 to 15,000 HP, so up to you if that's going to be worth it. After your 0-tick Soulfire, use another Soul Sap and then a tier 95 weapon spec. Auto attack, Soul Sap, and do another volley here. Having 3 or 4 souls is fine. It's not too reliant on Zorgoth's ring procs. Use Freedom, and then kill the Crystal Prison with a Soul Sap and Touch of Death. Hopefully your conjures are also in a position that they might be able to help you clear this as well. Once you're out of the prison, use Threads of Fate and Soul Sap. Ideally, you'd get up to 5 souls, and then you can phase the boss with any 1 or 2 abilities. To kill the first pillar, we'll use Command Skeleton, 5-stack Volley, and then 1 Necrosis ability, either Finger or Touch of Death. Then use a supercharged auto attack. Do another basic ability to kill the pillar if you need to, and once it's dead, make 100% sure that you extend your conjures. This is very important. Target Kazalam again, and then use Bloat and 2 basics to build back up to 100 adrenaline. You could also command your skeleton before going into Living Death now. Now we'll do our Living Death, and this is mostly going to be a normal Living Death, where you do Touch, then Skulls, spam Necrosis, and aim to get 3 Death Skulls off within the duration of your Living Death. The only notes I'll share are that you want to play around your Zorgoth's ring procs and your Adrenaline a little bit. We do want to use Bloat during this Living Death, and we do want to end this phase with 5 soul stacks. So if you have to use a couple of soul saps instead of auto attacks, that's fine. If you need a little bit more Adrenaline before or after your Bloat, just use your main hand crossbow and do a Hydrix Gricko. I got a Relentless proc in here, which certainly helped, but conceptually, Those are all the targets you want to hit during this living death. 3 death skulls, 1 bloat, and end with 5 souls. Otherwise, just blast away with necrosis. I'm trying to end the phase with a divert here as well. The closer you are to 100% adrenaline at the end of the second pillar, the better. Kazalam should be phased now, so to kill the second pillar, we'll command our skeleton, use 5-stack volley, and since I had some extra necrosis here, I did a Finger of Death, then a couple of basics. While you're killing the pillar, it can be a good time to apply Disruption Shield and Vengeance. Ideally, the Disrupt will block one of the Scarab hits, and you can Vitality Potion for the other hit. Make sure that you also Life Transfer at the end of this pillar. Now on Kazalam, we'll Split Soul right away, pray that you get a Jaspuk proc, use Bloat, Death Skulls, and Command Skeleton. 0-tick Soulfire once again, then Soul Sap, Touch of Death. Here, I did a Finger of Death, then Soul Sap to get back up to 5 souls. I did a 5-stack volley, and finished off with a tier 90 weapon spec. If there are any adrenaline issues in that last phase, you could try and find a way to fit in a Hydrix-Gricko. Maybe that will let you get into tier 95 spec as well. Now, so long as you see the boss hit 0 HP at a minute 54 on the clock, like in my kill here, you're good to go. It has a 6-second death animation, which was probably the most frustrating thing about going for this kill. I can't tell you how many times I'd be within one ability or two of that 154 target. And when I was watching the timer count up on this kill, I was really biting my nails, seeing that 157, 158, 159, oh please count, and finally 159.4. Beat the goal by just a tick. This definitely wasn't the most consistent speed kill in my opinion. Of course it could be because I'm not as good at the game as some players, but ultimately I got the master time that I was looking for, and I'm sharing that experience here on YouTube. I hope this video was helpful, and I wish you luck on your Kazalam master grind. If you enjoyed this video, consider subscribing to my channel, as I'll be making videos like this for every master and grandmaster speed task in the game. Share this video with a friend, leave me a comment. Thanks for watching, and see you next time. The final boss in the Sanctum is Nakatra. We'll need to get a sub 3-minute hard mode kill. We'll have to do 1 cycle of Nephthys without letting them heal. We'll have to kill both gorillas in the Shadow Sands, and we'll also have to do a perfect kill. At Nakatra, the perfect kill entails not being hit by Soulfire or any of the Hieroglyph attacks. We'll also not want to let any of the corrupted Scarabs explode. And lastly, we need to get the kill while only doing the Shadow Sands realm 1 time. Realistically, we'll achieve all this when going for a sub 3 kill. So for the kill where you want to 1 cycle the Nephthys, I would just recommend taking it slower than you would on a sub 3 attempt. Instead of worrying about getting a Scarab skip, maybe consider building some extra stacks or saving your split soul for the Nephthys section. You basically just want to have some big abilities ready to go that you can quickly burst down both Nephthys before they heal. I saved my split soul and some stacks, then I did bloat and death skulls on the first Nephthys, then just some basics to finish it off. And on the second one, I did a big volley of souls and some weapon specs to finish it before Nakatra could heal them. Nothing too challenging here, just requires a little preparation. The challenge to kill the gorillas in the Shadow Sands realm is interesting, as they're both really high HP and your time is limited in the Shadow Sands. If you spend too long in the realm, you will get insta-killed, so I don't recommend trying to kill both gorillas in that same cycle. Instead, try to do a 2-cycle kill, or maybe even a 3-cycle kill if it's necessary, and just try and kill 1 gorilla each time. It's definitely okay to dump everything on the gorilla and take the Nakatra portion of the fight a little bit slower. Like I said, the gorillas have 150,000 HP each, so you definitely want to deathmark them, and you want to use big abilities like bloat, weapon specs, and death skulls if it's available. Really whatever you can think of. Then just play smart. If you feel like you've been in the realm for too long, don't risk getting insta-killed. Instead, take the Nakatra portion slow and wait out another cycle. So that's what I did in these clips. I killed 1 gorilla on the first cycle, took Nakatra relatively slow, then I killed the other gorilla in the second cycle. Afterwards, I simply killed Nakatra, granting me the gorilla and the Nephthys achievements in the same kill. Let's look at my sub 3 perfect Nakatra kill. One cool thing with this clip quickly, it was actually on my Grandmaster perfect Sanctum attempt, where you need to get all 3 perfect kills without ever leaving the dungeon to bank. I got the master time, the perfect kill, and the perfect dungeon. But let me play my clip breaking down the rotation ability by ability. This rotation will get you very consistent sub 3s, and more likely even be in the 245 to 250 range. Summon your conjures, life transfer, invoke death, command ghost, invoke Lord of Bones, command skeleton, and ingenuity to humans at the same time, wait 2 ticks, and surge in. Start with the very standard necromancy opening. Death Skulls, Soul Sap, Touch of Death, Auto Attack, Soul Sap, Living Death plus A-Pot, Touch of Death, Death Skulls. Now, command your skeleton, Soul Sap, Bloat, Limitless plus Reflect plus Vidpot plus Vengeance all together. Make absolutely sure that you are full health here, and switch your prayer to Soul Split. Tank the first hit of Obliterate. Divert the second hit. Tank the third hit and eat some jellyfish. Optionally, you could switch back to Prey Magic for this third hit if you wanted to play more safe, but tanking it will result in more reflect damage. Continue your Living Death rotation with Soul Sap and your second Death Skulls. Use Touch of Death and then Split Soul. Use Soul Sap. This should now give you 5 stacks of soul, and the boss should be phasing at 960k HP right about now. 5 stack volley. Finger of Death twice in a row. Then use your third Death Skulls to end your Living Death. Now, we're going to build our adrenaline back up to use Death Skulls and our weapon special attacks to phase into the Nephthys phase. The main principle we'll want to use here is to use Soul Sap, 2 abilities, Soul Sap, until we complete the phase. The way I'm going to recommend you do that is as follows. Soul Sap, Touch, Skeleton. Soul Sap, Devotion, Bloat. This lines up perfectly with the Obliterate attack. Soul Sap, Explode Zombie, Auto Attack. Soul Sap, Touch of Death, Death Skulls. Soul Sap, Volley, Tier 95 special attack. Depending on our HP here, you may have already phased the boss and skipped the scarabs. But if you haven't, your target is to get Nakatra down to 480,000 HP before she does her next wave attack. Improvise with some abilities and save your tier 90 weapon special as a last resort or for a finishing ability to hit the 480k HP threshold. You won't always need to use it, but it can make getting the scarab skip much more consistent. Nephthys phase. We don't have to be extremely precise with our ability order here, so rather than that, let me share with you the main principles of this phase and what our big objectives are. After phasing Nakatra, equip your Excalibur to delete your Condors, then summon new Condors. We're not going to kill both Nephthys in a single cycle before she heals them, so we're going to kill the first one while building a lot of stacks that we'll use for the second. You want to use Invoke Death, Bloat, and a Skeleton on the first Nephthys, while also building as many stacks of Soul and Necrosis as you can. When surging over to the second Nephthys, I find this to be the best time to command my Ghost again. Similar to the first one, we'll use Invoke Death and Bloat, now followed by a 5-stack volley to kill this Nephthys quickly. Finish it off with a couple basic abilities, then target Nakatra. We're going to try and get in a little pre-phase damage on her before going into the Shadow Sands realm. The timing on this is important. Nakatra will be immune to damage if not timed properly. If you time this right, you can get 3 damaging abilities off and extend your contours at the end of it. I like to think of this timing as hitting my ability right as the Nephthys is at his highest point in the air during his death animation. Once he hits his zenith, you want to use Finger of Death, tier 90 weapon special attack, and a Soul Sap on Nakatra. Of course, if you are very lucky with Sorgoth's Ring, you could substitute one of those abilities for a 5-stack volley, but this 3 ability combo is very reliable otherwise. Finger, tier 90, Soul Sap, and then Life Transfer. Now you'll be sucked into the Shadow Sands realm. The rotation you'll use in the Shadow Sands realm largely depends on your adrenaline and if you really want to juice for a PR or not. I'll tell you that the fastest rotation would be to do something like Threads of Fate, Soul Sap, Volley on the Salawaz, and then exit as soon as possible. And if you were to follow that, it's also debatable if you want to use Invoke Death right before you use Threads. I personally only go for this approach if I've entered the realm at a minute 40 or earlier, and I think that I might get a new PR. What I usually end up doing is very consistent and comfortable. I Skeleton when I enter, Threads of Fate, Bloat, Soul Sap, and finish with basics. And ideally, I'll build to 80% adrenaline or higher on the gorillas while I'm clicking the 3 souls. I prefer this approach to the speedier strat, simply for the comfort of it. I go into the final phase with full adrenaline and full soul stacks, and it makes the final phase very relaxed. You'll still get consistent sub 3s doing this. Maybe you won't get a sub 245, but personally, this is what I recommend. Important to note for anyone who's opted to use Majorat and a Reaver's Ring. Inside the realm can be a good time to use another Invoke Lord of Bones before the final phase. That will make you accurate enough to use Reaver's Ring without penalty. The final phase, the dreaded one cycle. A lot of people find this very daunting, but with this method, it's crazy consistent. Do one ability upon exiting the realm, ideally something that builds stacks if necessary. Dive over to your hieroglyph, Living Death, Touch of Death, Split Soul, Death Skulls, Bloat, Volley. Now, start dumping all of your necrosis stacks until Nakatra's Obliterate attack. Usually, I can cast my second Death Skulls and one finger just before this happens. Keep Soul Split up, Vitality Potion plus Vengeance plus Limitless plus Reflect. Tank the first hit, divert the second, and optionally tank the third. It's probably safer to pray magic for the third, and to tell you the truth, I usually do that on my Iron Man, since I won't have the luxury of a Reaver Scroll healing me, but it is more damage if you can tank the third. This is where I've often chosen to eat my Juju Gumbo to tank that third hit, and to fish for a final Godbook proc. The divert was super important, as now it will allow you to tier 95 special attack, tier 90 special attack, and Death Skulls again, if you need to. Now you can just finish the boss with any of your remaining strong abilities. Congratulations! If you followed this guide, you've successfully performed a Scarab Skip, one cycle hard mode Nakatra in under 3 minutes. Next up is Seiryu, and in the Master tier we'll need to get a solo kill in under a minute 30, and we'll also need to do a one cycle kill. These should basically be the same thing. I would be amazed if someone had a video of a sub 130 2 cycle solo. That would be hilarious and awesome to see. So for the one cycle, you can just camp Necromancy, and you can definitely do this in a full run scenario. But for the purposes of this, I'll recommend pre-building 5 soul stacks at Wars. I also recommend bringing Dominion Mines with you, as you can get a free 20k damage on one of the crystals using those. So that can definitely help the consistency of your one cycle. At the start of the fight, we want to kill Seiryu's face fairly quickly, so I recommend using Split Soul, tier 95 weapon spec, Bloat, Death Skulls, the 5-stack volley from your pre-build, and then just improvise with basics and necrosis until you hit the 7.2 million HP mark. Ideally, you can also build back to full adrenaline and at least a couple of soul stacks by the time you hit that HP as well. As long as you're climbing onto Seiryu's back no later than the 40-second mark, you should be good to go for this 130. Before you climb, I recommend deleting your conjures and using Invoke Death early. Invoke Death will last long enough that you can apply it to the first crystal after climbing, saving you 1 GCD. When you finally get up onto the back, summon a fresh set of conjures. I like doing this because it's more reliable that the conjures will actually be on the back with you and attacking the crystals. Sometimes if you don't do this, the conjures will just stay on the ground with Seiryu's face and not really contribute to the crystal portion of the fight. So now for the crystals. Apply that death mark to the first one by using any ability and deploy your 2 Dominion Mines. Command the conjures if you want, and then go into a living death right away. By now you know the drill. Just blast away with Death Skulls and Necrosis. Kill the first crystal quickly, apply Deathmark to the second one, and carry on blasting away with Necrosis. Whenever you do get Split Soul available again, make sure that you use that. The second crystal is going to die really quickly, and then you can just keep improvising with Necrosis, that final Death Skull, maybe a 5-stack volley, and some weapon specs to kill the third and final crystal. You'll be able to do that well before any of the healing blobs can even touch Seiryu, granting you both the 1 cycle achievement and the sub 130 achievement. For Solak, we'll need to get a sub 3 minute 45 kill. I recommend doing this in a team of 4 or 5. We'll need to get a kill where we get a 1 cycle core and a no realm phase 4. Most likely you're doing that already, and you'll definitely be doing that on the sub 345. Lastly, we have 3 mechanical achievements, and unless you're going for the unorthodox kill where you combine all of these, I would recommend going for these on 3 separate kills. So on the first challenge, you need to have all 8 lashers survive throughout the whole fight. You'll want to have a dedicated lasher tank for that. Next, there's a challenge to only charge 1 pad during phase 3, and also leave Solak with 30% of his total HP pool before starting phase 4. So instead of going into phase 4 with very little HP, you go into phase 4 with a pretty chunky amount of HP. Lastly, you want to do a phase 4 where Solak has 50% of his HP remaining in the Mind Realm, so you'll probably want to have a dedicated Mind tank for that. So for the 3 mechanical achievements, it may be easier to team form for an unorthodox team rather than completing these 3 achievements individually. Doing the unorthodox in its entirety is actually quite challenging, so it's definitely worthy of being a Grandmaster challenge. But purely from a team forming standpoint, you might have better luck trying to knock everything out all at once together, instead of trying to go for these individually. I will be using clips from my unorthodox kill, as I was unable to team form for just the individual achievements. If you do end up trying to complete these individually, I would recommend trying to go in a team size of 2 or 3. 3 is probably better unless you're very confident with your duo partner. Odds are that one player is going to be taken out of the fight for the critical moments, and the remaining players will end up fighting Solak with a bit of a DPS handicap. So for the achievement with the 8 lashers, rootlings will start spawning in around the time that we're killing the legs. The first rootling to spawn in will be random, but afterwards they'll spawn in order, going in a clockwise fashion. So as the lasher tank, I'm paying attention to Merethiel's animation where she shoots out a little green energy. I find the rootling that energy is sent out to, and from there I'm going to go around the room using a low damaging ability on each of them to get their aggression. You may want to save provoke if any of the lashers go onto any of your teammates. I'm mostly just using rack in these clips. It can be useful to tell your teammates not to use too many AoEs on the core. Things like death skulls can bounce to rootlings, poisoning and doing too much damage to them. It can also take away the aggro from the lasher tank, so just want to be careful with things like Gricko and skulls in particular. Once I have all 8 lashers on me, I'll come near this second southwestern torch. Then I'll go diagonally southeast near Merethiel, as far east as I can walk. The game won't really let you walk any further than this tile that's north of where this little root is sticking out. I was trying to follow the instructions in this picture that's been floating around to try and get them stuck on Merethiel for phases 2 and 3, but that was not especially consistent. I managed it maybe once out of 10 attempts. That, or I would get 2 lashers stuck and the rest would be north of Merethiel. But truthfully, it's not that important that you get them stuck in these phases, and you can just tank the lashers until the kill is over. You'll leech the kill from this point on, just making sure that you and the lashers are all staying alive. Your partners will have to kill Solak with a slight DPS handicap. Unfortunately, you can no longer get lashers stuck on Merethiel like I did in this unorthodox kill. At the time, that would allow you to rejoin the fight on phase 4, but it was patched out. A new way to get lashers stuck was discovered, but it requires ranged, and the players who found it specifically asked me not to share it, as it's probably against the spirit of the achievement. So I'm not trying to burn any more bridges than I already have in this game. I'll just stick to recommending this South Lure and AFK strategy. Next up is the 1 pad 30% HP feat. Here it's important that your base tank positions Solak off of any pads, but is still far enough north that they won't be attacked by lashers. You can see how our base did that. He took Solak down south a little bit so that Solak was a little closer to the center of the arena, and then the base went back up north a touch, out of lasher attack range. For this feat, you can only charge 1 pad, and it's important that Solak is as close to 30% HP as possible. You want to get it close without overkilling it. At this point, your 2 elf killers should also be getting ready. If they need to do anything like a natural instinct, get a crit buff, or a big berserk, or big metamorphosis, or even just do a big living death, make sure that they do that. It would be tragic to come this far into a kill and fail the 1 cycle elf by like 20,000 HP. Make sure that those guys are absolutely ready to pump out some damage, and when the boss is around 2 million HP in a 5-man, start charging the pad. This will give you a good bit of buffer room, and you can see that this team was just awesome in how they handled it. They got it to 1.86 million HP, not risking going under 1.8, but still nice and close. The elf killers are killing their elf, and here's where things get interesting. The final mechanical challenge is a bit similar to the last one. For this one, you'll need to end the kill and have Solak's mind HP still have 50% or more. The goal is just to stay alive and do your best damage. Hope that the realm tankers are doing well, cycling through their devotion intercepts and barricade intercepts. While they're using barricade, they should also be spam clicking on the mind version of Solak to heal him. You can see our mind HP on this kill was phenomenal. Our 2 realm tanks did a fantastic job. We finished the kill with almost full mind HP, so there was plenty of leeway. And that completes the unorthodox Solak kill. There was definitely a lot going on in that one. I think across all the teams that I went on, this took like 15 hours to get, so I'm really happy to finally be done with this. Big thank you to my teammates on this team. Going alphabetically, we had Jellyfish, Octillion, Prevented, and Quinn. I know I did the quote-unquote leech roll in this kill, so it's not the most glamorous POV to watch, but you know, it's all important in these team challenges. Someone's got to do it, so flame me in the comments or your private discords if you must. I'm just happy to have another Grandmaster feat completed. So for the Solak speed kill, I would like to do a more in-depth breakdown as a standalone video soon, but here's the gist of it in a quick talk through. You'll want to go with 4 or 5 players, but 4 feels good to me personally. There are 4 eruptions on phase 2, and everyone can take one. For that reason alone, 4 feels nice. Start the fight by stalling Tsunami off of the PVM hub dummies, and enter the instance. Coordinate your starting signal. A lot of times people like to stand north of the dummy and then use darkness. After the signal, everyone releases Tsunami with a natural instinct. Do 2 abilities like Concentrated Blast and Greater Ricochet to get back up to full adrenaline. Equip your melee weapons, use Anticipation for timing, Berserk, Barge the dummy, Chaos Roar the dummy, stall Claws, and start the fight. Release the Claw on Solak with a Flurry, and when you can, use Meteor Strike to refresh your crit buff. Now just improvise spamming Dragon Claws and a length spec until you get to the phase point. In a 4-man, that's 3.75 million HP. When necessary, use Reflect and a Vitality Potion to tank all of the pad explosions. If you spammed enough Dragon Claws and did enough damage within the first 21 seconds of the fight, you will have completely skipped the Rootling mechanic and gotten the most important time save of the fight, saving you about 40 seconds. From here on out, you'll just be cycling Sunshine and Berserk to the best of your ability. So Sunshine for the arms, use FSOA when you can, use Detonate and Tsunami on the legs. Improvise something on the core with Omni Power, Concentrated Blast, and end it off with a Tendril so that you end phase 1 with full adrenaline. To start phase 2, go to your assigned eruption, equip your melee gear, and use Berserk. Then you can barge, bleed the eruption, and finish it off with something like a Punish. After everyone kills their eruptions and meets back at Solak, you can finish off your Berserk timer with strong abilities and refresh your critical strike buff by using Meteor Strike. After the Meteor Strike, switch back to Mage Gear and do the best Sunshine with Fasoa that you can think of. Save your Tsunami till the very end, only to refresh your critical strike buff. If you're ever too low on adrenaline to do any of these big abilities, an easy way to get back to high or full adrenaline pretty consistently would be by using Hydrix Gricko. Between the 7 hits of Gricko all having individual chances to crit and the actual Hydrix buff itself, that gives you 2 really powerful ways of getting a lot of adrenaline quickly. Anyway, you should end your Sunshine with Tsunami, and phase 2 should be ending around the same time. Start phase 3 with a big Berserk, and improvise something with some powerful abilities like a Barge Bleed, Overpower, Roar Claws, and end it off with a Meteor Strike. You guessed it, to refresh your crit buff. If you're one of the players who is assigned to go into the Elf, you can use Metamorphosis and kill the Elf with strong magic abilities, ending with a Tsunami. If you're DPSing Solak, you could also meta, or you could Sunshine on Solak, again ending it off with Tsunami. Then in the final phase, a nice simple Berserk should finish it off, and grant you the master time with a good amount of margin. This was my first ever hour attempting mage melee at Solak like this, so my gameplay was definitely far from perfect, but I ended up learning a lot in this hour, and I've improved a lot since then. So I would be quite keen on making a more in-depth hybrid guide for Solak like this in the near future. I think the viewership on this video specifically might get a little bit buried with this being a multiple hour long video, but if you're watching this, let me know if you're interested in a more in-depth hybrid Solak guide. Also just want to shout out to everyone on the team, but one player in particular who is actually a really good content creator. Mayor Mojo. I didn't realize until after the hour why his name was familiar to me, but he's got great high-level PvM streams, so I've linked his Twitch channel in the description of this video. I'm always happy when I get to PvM with anyone, really, but definitely cool to run into other content creators in this game. On to Telos. We'll need to get to 2000% in rage and achieve a 100 kill streak. Like the Arch-Glacor, I can't really cover the entirety of pushing or streaking in this video, but I can share my insights on the speed kills and the mechanical challenges. So for the speed kill, we'll need to get a 1000% in rage kill in under 3 minutes 15 seconds. For the mechanical challenges, we'll need to get a kill at 1000% in rage without getting any auto attacks on phase 4. We'll need to do another kill where we font all 3 sets of minions on phase 5, again at 1000% in rage. In the lower tiers of achievements, we have done this same fonting challenge, just at lower in rages, but the idea will be the same. Lastly, we need to do a kill at least 100% in rage, where we don't let any of the golems touch us at all. So Telos phase 4 without any autos. In layman's terms, you just want to stun lock him the whole phase, and hit the phasing HP points before he breaks free from those stuns. So on phase 3, I'll play just a little bit slower to do some preparation. I started by making sure I get 5 stacks of soul on phase 3. That way I could do a big 5-stack volley right away on phase 4, and instantly phase him into the first font. In the first font, I tried to use triple side life and soul saps to get up to 5 soul stacks. Then I pre-applied bloat and command skeleton on Telos. Once I can attack again, I just use my big 5-stack volley, phasing him instantly. If you had bad soul RNG, you could also use your tier 90 weapon spec with some necrosis stacks to get off a big stun as well as big damage. In the second font, I used my threads of fate on all of the golems and soul sap to get back up to 5 soul stacks again. Pre-apply bloat and skeleton on Telos, and you guessed it, a big 5-stack volley here to insta-phase. Once I'm in the third font, I just want to make sure that death mark is applied to Telos, and all I need to do is to do an ability to trigger the death mark, so I did a Finger of Death. Now, as long as you can secure the kill on phase 5, you'll get this achievement completed. Next up is fonting all 3 sets of golems on phase 5. So there's definitely no shame in bringing tank armor and a yak or a hellhound for this one. So right away to start phase 5, our first priority should be fonting the golems. Here I got red golems, and I went to the red font. I probably should have played a little bit more carefully, but really the main goal is to use Threads of Fate and kill them quickly with something like a Soul Sap, Volley, and maybe a tier 95 weapon spec. Then you can turn your attention to Telos. Since we're going to have to wait out 3 whole sets of minions, you don't really want to have to do too much damage to Telos. In fact, it could be easy to accidentally kill him too early if all you're doing is focusing on DPS. So once you kill the first set of golems, just wait out the insta-kill. Do whatever little damage you want to do on Telos, and then when the insta-kill comes, click the font to knock Telos out for a moment. Then just repeat the same procedure for the next 2 colors of golems. Take them to their font, clear them quickly with Threads of Fate or Triple Scythe, wait out the insta-kill, click the charged font. Then after the third and final set of golems, you can finally kill Telos. For the no anima golem challenge, you can do this as 100% enraged, so it's not going to be that dangerous. I did end up bringing 2 pieces of magic armor with me, as well as a magic staff. That way I had an extra option to kill golems whenever Threads of Fate would be on cooldown. So on phase 4, Telos will spawn 3 golems after you reach the fonting HP. They always spawn within a similar radius of the fonts, so by now that you're in the master tier, you probably have a good sense of where that is. When Telos does get phased, just be careful not to stand too close to the fonts. When you see golems spawn in, run away from them and try and kill them from a distance with either Threads of Fate or Death Skulls if you're using Necromancy. If you're using magic or switching to magic at any point, then use Greater Chain and a strong ability like Wild Magic or Omni Power to kill the golems quickly. It's not really necessary to bring a switch like this, but it definitely gives you more flexibility having a second option. So just repeat this for the entirety of phase 4. Phase Telos, steer clear of the font for a moment, kill the golems while running away, then re-enter the font. On phase 5, golems are going to spawn in pretty much right away, so I ended up diving and surging off to one of the sides to avoid any bad golem spawns. Then I used a Death Skulls, hoping that it would bounce around between the golems, and I could run in circles around Telos, using Threads of Fate to kill the golems that were chasing after me. Once the golems are dead, I'll kill Telos. So let's look at the Telos Master speed kill. This needs to be at 1000% in rage, and under 3 minutes 15 seconds. I will start out by grabbing 4 soul stacks and 4 necrosis stacks. So before starting the fight, I'll summon my conjures, I'll do all of the commands that I want to do, command Ghost, invoke Lord of Bones, command Skeleton, I'll life transfer them, and I'll even do Split Soul before surging in. So here I invoke Lord of Bones, Split Soul, command Skeleton, surge in. I'll Devotion, then I'll target cycle with Bloat, go for a Death Skulls, and then a tier 95 weapon spec. Then I'm just going to improvise with my Necrosis here, and that should get me through phase 1 nice and easy. I'll be saving my souls until phase 2. So using that tier 95 and the split soul damage, I get through P1 very quickly. I am going to have a tendril attack soon on phase 2, so I'll start phase 2 with Skeleton and just building some more stacks. Then I'll use my 5-stack volley to instantly clear the tendril. Now I'm going to try and walk Telos out of the black beam, and I'm going to go for a full living death here. I can also use Divert, that way I get some more adrenaline, and I can save my APOT for later. I'll improvise with my Necrosis and my Death Skulls to try and finish this phase off quickly, jumping into phase 3 at around the 50-second mark. On phase 3, I'm going to try and use Split Soul and use the remaining time in my Living Death to get off some big damage. So big Death Skulls, couple of big Fingers of Death, maybe even a Bloat. And I'll dive into the red beam to get even more damage off. So this phase is nice and quick, and I'm jumping in phase 4 at about a minute 15 on the clock. To start phase 4, I'm just going to go for a tier 95 spec and a tier 90 spec, and that should phase me in the first font pretty much instantly, at which point I can focus on surviving and building some stacks off of the minions. I will also summon a new set of conjures at this point. Then I'm just making sure that I eat up, building some stacks off of these golems, and when Telos is attackable once more, I can use a big volley with however many stacks I got. That'll phase him into the second font, and I can turn my attention to these golems. I can use Devotion here as an easy way to survive all of these melee hits. And I'll use Threads of Fate and Soul Sap so that I can build 5 stacks of soul off of all of these golems. Once Telos is attackable again, I'll use a 5-stack volley, and that should phase him into the final font just about instantly as well. In the final font, all I'll want to do is apply Invoke Death to Telos, make sure that I survive the golems and the font damage so I can use something like Reflect. Make sure that I'm not getting stunned ideally by the red golems, and then I want to trigger that Invoke Death on Telos with whatever big ability seems good, if that's a Finger of Death, if it's a Volley of Souls, whatever you have that makes sense. On phase 5, I'm going to start right away by using Invoke Death, and making my way speedily to the Adrenaline Beam. I'll use my Adrenaline Potion on this phase, that way I can get to my ultimate abilities faster, so once I'm in the Adren Beam, I'll use Natural Instinct, Reflect to help myself survive, Living Death, Death Skulls, and then Barricade. From here I can turn on Split Soul, and now the kill is super free, just blast away with all my Necrosis and any weapon specs I have. And there you have it, there's a 1000% enraged Telos kill in under 3 minutes 15 seconds. Quite a bit of leeway actually. Vorago. So in the Master tier at Vorago, we'll need to get a duo normal mode kill in under 7 minutes 15 seconds. We'll need to get a 4-man hard mode kill in under 11 minutes. We'll need to get a solo normal mode kill, and we'll need to get 6 out of 6 duo hard mode kills, so that's 1 duo kill on every rotation of hard mode. So for the normal mode duo in 7 minutes 15 seconds, you'll want to do this on Ceilings Week, as that gives you the most time save with the bleed skip on phase 4. I think you can do 7:15 with 2 Necromancers, but at the time of recording this, I was trying to learn my first bits of melee Vorago in preparation for Grandmaster. So I ended up melee basing, and my partner was a Necromancer. I did do a solo lure on phase 1, but I've since learned a better method that's best explained in my standalone Vorago videos. And to tell you the truth, the solo lure is not make or break to the end result on this 7:15. I just tried to do a big berserk on phase 1 and bring the HP close enough that my partner who's using Necromancy can invoke death and kill the phase quickly after jumping. Phase 2 is pretty normal, just trying to keep Vorago mostly still, clear bleeds, and bring Vorago's HP low enough without resetting him before the spam clicking portion. Phase 3, I did my best berserk at the time, stalling a Dragon Claws off the dummy, and my partner improvised with Split Soul, Death Skulls, and both weapon special attacks. We do end up skipping the Reflect here, which is probably a good initial metric for a prospective Master duoer. I think the target that we were aiming for was to enter phase 4 no later than 3:50 on the clock. On phase 4, we take a similar approach to phase 2, where there's nothing really important to do but wait out the time gate. Set up the bleed skips by positioning ourselves in a way where Vorago will get stuck on the ceilings rocks and unable to attack us. Then we just lower his HP enough without resetting it before the end of the phase. Phase 5 is going to open up with a team split, and you don't have to do anything perfect here like zero specking the phase or anything. You can just wait until the team split ends. Use your ultimate ability while you're waiting, so in our case it was Berserk and Living Death. Then after the team split is over, just send your best damage and you should get the kill time with a good amount of leeway. So for the sub 11 4-man hard mode, like normal mode, you'll want to do this on Ceilings Week, as you get the most time save from the bleed skip on phase 9. I've always enjoyed ranging hard mode. Casually, you can pretty much just stall an SGB and release it with Gricko on practically every phase, and you'll end up killing it like that. For me, it's really not much more in depth than that, and to tell you the truth, if you had a team of 4 players all ranging that could stall an ability, I don't think you'd need to know any more than that. This was a team that had a melee base, 2 Necromancers, and myself ranging. So this kill speed is pretty achievable, even reasonably casually. You won't really need to learn any crazy fancy rotations or anything, just clean execution, hitting strong abilities on all of the phases. With 4 players that are familiar with the mechanics, as long as you're not using weak basic abilities, there's really not that much that can go wrong. Necromancers are all going to be improvising with Split Soul, weapon specs, Death Death Skulls and Necrosis every phase, depending on their cooldowns. Rangers are basically SGBing and Grickoing every phase. Meleeers are probably Zerking every other phase, and improvising with strong abilities like Barge Bleed, Claws, Overpower, and Link Spec. If you do want to go more in depth with ability by ability breakdowns, I'd refer you to my standalone Grandmaster hard mode Vorago guide. But for the Master tier, this is definitely still casual enough that you can do this with any combat style. Improvise with strong abilities, and you really don't need to think too much. So I'll just start by applying Darkness to myself. And eating some food on the drop down here. That way I clear one inventory space, and I also get some HP back. And we'll just get through the climb. Vorago is not really going to attack you here. He might drop your run energy down to 0, so that's something I want to just be a little bit careful of. He dropped my run energy there. So once I jump down, I'll just apply Invoke Death to Vorago. I'll summon some Condors. I'll command the Ghost, and I'll just try and do my best damage. I will also apply Invoke Lord of Bones. That way I start getting some accuracy buffs for my character. Really don't have to do anything too fancy. You're definitely free to take this nice and slow if you want. Make use of things like Disruption Shield. Soul Split Flicking definitely helps a lot. Hellhound is a really good familiar, reduces a lot of this damage that you see. And overall, makes this nice and cozy. So there we go, there's phase 1 finished. I'm going to skip through phase 2 for the most part. I will show you how to clear all 5 bleeds, but after we clear the first cycle of bleeds, I'm just going to fast forward. So at the start of phase 2, I'll get some new Condors as well. Then I'm going to Freedom the first bleed here. So Freedom that first bleed, and now I'm going to kind of maintain one line here. So I'm just going to Surge in that line, walk back, Surge again, making sure I pray magic. I am going to take a bomb here. So you see, I'm just kind of keeping this same line going side to side in the arena. Once Vorago puts a bleed on me, I just use a mobility ability. And then I can just AFK for the rest of the phase. So you see here, I'll free them, and I'll just try and maintain my line. I'll Surge far away, run back in a straight line, Surge for the next bleed, just back and forth. Dive away from this one. Running back in, and Surge away from the final bleed. Nice and easy. Now to clear bring him down, I will use my 5-stack volley and a Death Skulls. We do have to do a good amount of damage here, so better to play it safe than sorry. And on the next phase we will be using Living Death anyway, so putting Death Skulls on cooldown now is not a big problem. Just finishing the phase. At the end of the phase, I'll go ahead and dismiss my Condors, so that I can summon a fresh set on the next phase. I'll also go ahead and apply Disruption Shield early, as it will carry over into Phase 3. Phase 3 is going to be Scopulous, so we're just going to have to deal with 2 big melee guys running around the room. Vorago will be throwing blue bombs at us, but it really won't be too big a problem. So here I'll go ahead and apply Invoke Death, target cycle at first Scop, and my idea is going to be just to build some soul stacks, so then I can do a big Threads of Fate and hit both of the guys. Running around the room, I'm free to grab a Resonance if I want. I can apply Invoke Death to this guy, maybe even a Bloat. Now that I have my 5 soul stacks, I'm going to go ahead and use Devotion, Threads of Fate, 5-stack Volley, and I'll do both weapon specs, Tier 95 and Tier 90. That kills one of the Scops, extends my Devotion, and I should be able to kill this second guy here. Doesn't have to be perfect, just has to be a successful solo kill to get the achievement. So there we go, there's P3 completed. On to Phase 4. Phase 4 is just going to be a big time gate phase, so we'll definitely skip through most of this. All we really have to deal with is tanking a red bomb, and we will have to deal with bleeds. So here's the red bomb, we'll have a couple attacks, and then it will be bleeds. So I'll just clear those the exact same way I cleared those on Phase 2. I'll anticipate for the first bleed, I'll pick a line, and I'll just maintain that line. So I'll Surge, run back in, Surge away from that one, run back in, still in the same line, side to side in the arena, diving away from that one, and surging away from the final one. And there you go, there's 5 bleeds cleared. Now we'll just repeat this same cycle one more time, and pretty much just AFK for the rest of the phase other than that. Alright, so going into phase 5, I'm going to delete my conjures. I'm going to make sure that I build them all. And since it's going to be a purple bomb P5, I'll go ahead and pre-apply Disruption Shield to myself. At the start of phase 5, I'm going to summon new conjures, apply Invoke Death, apply Lord of Bones. So summon conjures, Invoke Death, command Ghost, Lord of Bones, Skeleton, and then I'll start the phase with tier 95 spec, auto attack, and Death Skulls. I'm going to be saving my Living Death for during bleeds, so here I'm just going to be improvising with my tier 95 and kind of building back up to high adrenaline. I'm not going to need to barricade either. Just going to play it nice and easy. Once it's reflect, I'll stop attacking. I can come far away, dive in towards Vorago, walk in, and that mitigates a little bit of pushback. So now it's going to be bleeds, and now I'll go in for my Living Death. Just clearing those bleeds with Freedom and Escape. And now I can blast away with my Necrosis. Living Death is, the Invoke Death is going to get triggered at some point, giving me more pushback. And just blasting away with my Necrosis here. Nice easy solo. No barricade required on phase 5. So duo hard mode 6 out of 6. For phases 1 through 9, I'm going to let my clips from my solo 6 out of 6 play out, as they are more detailed and they should convey a deeper knowledge of the boss. Both players should be following all of these same principles. I'm going to do something similar on every phase drop down. I'll summon new conjures, invoke death, command Lord of Bones, command Ghost, and command Skeleton. There's no need to extend any conjures with life transfer, at least on any of the weekly special phases. I'll do a weapon spec and a couple of basics until reflect. I'll then use devotion during reflect, and I'll try to Living Death as soon as I can. Then I'll just finish off this phase with a couple of Death Skulls and Necrosis abilities. After the phase ends, I'll delete my conjures again and get ready to do the same setup for Scopulus phase. Drop down, summon conjures, command Lord of Bones, command Ghost, command Skeleton, and invoke Death. I'll use Death Skulls on this first Scopulus, that'll bounce around between them while I start running around the edge of the room and building up some of my stacks. I also used Reflect here to play a little bit safe, and then when I got to 5 soul stacks, I used Invoke Death, Threads of Fate, Volley, Finger, tier 90 weapon spec. That killed one Scop and brought another one really close to deathmark range, so at that point I used Devotion around the time that I thought I could kill one of the other Scops. That way my devotion would get extended by 5 seconds, so I kill the second Scop, get my devotion extended, and just kill the third one. Delete my conjures at the end of the phase, and get ready to start anew. So again, drop down, summon conjures, do all of the command abilities, and invoke death. This phase is Vitalis, so I'll want to stand melee distance to the boss. That way I don't get blocked out by the Vitalis that spawn in. I started the phase with both weapon specs and then just a couple of basics until Reflect. During Reflect I'll use Invoke Death and Threads of Fate so that I can get a big sap and a big volley off of the many Vitalis that spawn in the arena. That'll do a lot of damage to Vorago, and if I were blocked in, it should kill any of the Vitalis surrounding me, allowing me to run around the room and deal with any bleeds I might get. From there I just do a Death Skulls and Bloat and whatever other good Necromancy abilities I can think of. I'm also just trying to run around the room, leaving some open files that I might be able to dive through if I needed to clear a bleed. This is the phase where Numbing Roots could come in handy if you had them. Next up is Green Bomb phase, so I'll start just as I have been with my conjures. I'll do a tier 95 spec and a few abilities while waiting for the first Green Bomb to hit me. I'll make sure that I'm 10,000 HP for this first one, as I'm opting to Vitality Potion the second Green Bomb instead of this first one. My logic for that is, since I know I'll be getting hit by a red bomb after the second Green Bomb, Vid-potting that one is going to put my HP in a better spot to tank through both of those high hitting mechanics, without wasting too much food. This is a phase where the Hellhound probably helps the most. Instead of the Green Bombs hitting 10,000 as they normally would, they only hit 8k. So, other than tanking through all of the damage in this phase, I'm just trying to use my strong Necromancy abilities like Death Skulls, Necrosis, and my weapon specs to clear the phase. Team Split is the next weekly special phase, and this is a nice and relaxed one. Feel free to take this one slowly. We'll want all of our strong abilities off cooldown for phase 8. I still want to use my 2 weapon specs this phase, but there's not really anything too interesting going on Team Split. Just making sure I enter all the team splits, don't PK myself on Reflect, grab res off any of the blue bombs if I need to, and just try and do good damage. Phase 8, however, is a fairly interesting phase. We'll have a pretty limited amount of time to do damage. And truthfully, I'll have to learn a better rotation than what I did here for my future solo hard mode kills, but the most important thing to deal with mechanically are the bombs during the end phase. When going through the arms, you can ignore the blue and the purple bombs, but you will want to tag all of the red bombs and just eat through them. There'll be 4 of them that hit 3,000 each, but the Hellhound will reduce that to 2,400 each. It's important to eat through all of these now, as they will null your barricade during the stand-up, and using barricade for the stand is going to be essential to live. So tag all of those reds and build back up to full adrenaline, then simply barricade on stand-up. Try and do some damage during your Cade as well, 5-stack volley and maybe a weapon spec or a couple fingers of death using necrosis stacks. That way if you're using stacks, you're not spending any of the adrenaline that you probably don't have anymore after barricading. And ideally you should be able to get Vorago low enough that you can trigger Deathmark early before completing a full second cycle of the arms and bombs. For Phase 9 on Team Split, again, there's nothing too special to report here. You'll want to deal with this mostly as normal. Enter the waterfalls, enter the Deem Splits, clear your bleeds, and try and finish the phase with high HP and high adrenaline. You may also want to aim to lower Vorago to Deathmark range, that way you can Deathmark during the waterfall and instantly kill Vorago upon exiting. For phases 10 through 11 on the various weeks, this will be a little bit less in depth than my solo hard mode guides, but I'll also present you with a cheat sheet at the end. Before I get into this section, this is maybe a little bit sad to say, but honestly with modern power creep, if both players are using Necromancy, you can kind of BS your way through all 6 of these weeks. Essentially take the strategy that one player will pump out damage, and the other player will try and barricade and intercept the other player. Then you can just alternate between that until you eventually win. You really can dumb it down that much and still win, but here are the fundamental tips for each week. Team Split. Out of the first Team Split on Phase 10, one player barricade and intercept the other. The other player tier 95 and Death Skulls. The best window of time to do damage is after the second Team Split. Alternate these roles until you can maul. Ideally, maul on the reflex so that you get 8 auto attacks before the reflect on Phase 11. Out of the Team Split, one player barricade and sep. Best window of time to do damage is during Purple Bomb. The End Week. Both players start with Living Death and full send it on Phase 10. Wait until bleeds and try and hold Vorago on the edge of the arena until bleeds end. Maul immediately after the third bleed. That gives you 8 autos until reflect on Phase 11. Full send during Purple Bomb on Phase 11, and try and have one player barricade and sept during Vitalis Orbs. Scopulus. This week is extremely similar to the end, with an essentially identical Phase 11. One player living death at the start of Phase 10, and the other player barricade and intercept them. Try and maul as soon as the Team Split spawns on Phase 10. That will give you 8 auto attacks until reflect on Phase 11. Take the same approach to Phase 11 as you did on the End Week. Ceiling Collapse. Phase 10 starts with a Team Split. The best window of time to do damage is out of that Team Split, so both players full send the living death right away, and try and maul whenever a green bomb gets launched. That will give you 8 attacks until reflect on Phase 11. Phase 11, both players should improvise damage out of the Team Split and have one player living death during the reflect. The other player will barricade and intercept during that reflect. Ideally, that way the barricade will last long enough that it covers you for the Vitalis Orb as well. Vitalis. Phase 10, one player should tier 95 and Death Skulls, while the other player barricades and intercepts. Send max damage during Purple Bomb. Intentionally wait out one more cycle of the Vid Orb, having the other player use barricade and intercept, then try and maul on the subsequent reflect. If this is too difficult, aim to maul on the Purple Bomb release. The first is more favorable, as it will set you up with 3 auto attacks into bleeds on Phase 11, giving you a really good window of time to get push on Phase 11. On Phase 11, the best time to do damage is during bleeds, so you can probably get it to maul if you phase like that. Green Bomb Week. Phase 10 starts right away with a green bomb, and it's going to be 50-50 if it's on you or your partner. So you could play it conservatively and wait to see who the green bomb is on, then have the other person do the barricade. But instead, I'll recommend that both players do tier 95 spec and Death Skulls, then just Vit Pot for the first green bomb. Save your barricades, and the first player do the barricade on the upcoming Vitalis Orb, having the other player do a Living Death. Try and maul on the next green bomb release if you can. That way you'll have 5 autos until the next reflect on Phase 11. Phase 11, I'll recommend that both players just send max damage out of the Team Splits and Vit Pot if you ever get a green bomb. Vorkath. So in the Master tier, we need to get a sub 2 minute 45 hard mode kill. This is pretty easy to do with Necromancy, so that's how I'm going to showcase it. We'll need to do a hard mode flight skip. You don't have to do this in one cycle, which is what you would most likely do for the Grandmaster speed kill. So you can do this in multiple cycles, but you'll just need to survive long enough to only be killing Zamorak while Vorkath is in the air. We need to do a kill without ever using the Ballista, so we can simply just use Barricade to survive that. We need to do a kill without using any form of Dragonfire protection. You may just want to use Reflect or Resonance for any of Vorkath's Dragon Breath special attacks, or just bring a Hellhound or a Yak full of food and eat through all of the extra damage. Nothing too fancy there. Lastly, you need to do a kill without ever getting stunned by Zamorak. Zamorak can only ever stun you in phases 1 and 2, shortly after he does the bone spike mechanic. So just use anticipation whenever the bone spikes happen and you're good to go. So I think the no anti-fire challenge is very self-explanatory, and we don't have to watch a full kill just for that. Let's look at the flight skip challenge first. I opted to bring a full melee switch with me for this, since I thought I could do better burst damage with Berserk. But really the whole point of this challenge is just to get through the first couple of phases of Vorkath as you normally would, and then do max damage on Zamorak when Vorkath flies up in the air. You don't have to do this in one cycle, so if you don't one cycle Zamorak, just ignore Vorkath altogether when he ends up landing. You can build adrenaline on Vorkath and play defensively with things like Barricade, but really all you need to do is just keep surviving until the next time Vorkath flies. Once he flies a second time, go hard on Zamorak again, and rinse and repeat this as many times as it takes to kill Zamorak. Once you do finally kill Zamorak, it doesn't matter how much HP Vorkath had left. The kill will be over and the achievement will be completed. Next up, let's look at the Master Speed at Vorkath. So I am going to be using Necromancy for this. I did end up building 5 stacks of soul at War's Retreat. I'm going to summon my conjures, make sure that darkness is active, I'll do my commands, invoke death, and then I'm going to split soul and command skeleton before starting the fight. I'll start the fight off with bloat, death skulls, a 5-stack volley, and then I'm going to build back my adrenaline up to 100%. Once I get back up to 100% adrenaline, I'll go for a Living Death and just blast away with Necrosis to the best of my ability. So Living Death, Touch of Death, Death Skulls, and start spamming through all of my Necrosis abilities. This is also a really good time to use the Undead Slayer Sigil ability if you have it unlocked. So in the meantime, nothing too interesting is going to be going on. I'm just going to be finishing off my Living Death, using all of my Death Skulls. Once my Living Death is finished, I'm going to go for a tier 95 spec, and I'm going to improvise to the best of my ability, just doing my best tier 95 spec rotation that I can think of. I'll still have a little bit of time on my tier 95 spec during this first Zamorak portion, so that can help me do some extra damage here. When I know that Vorkath is about to land, I'm going to go for a Threads of Fate. With that Threads of Fate, I can do Soul Sap, Volley, and another big ability like my tier 90 spec. So that's going to do really good damage to Zamorak, Vorkath, and clear out all of the minions in the nearby area. You can see I was under the effects of Jaspuk proc here, so that helped me get a 30k damage proc onto Vorkath when he ends up landing again. Once he lands again and I can fire the Ballista, I'm going to fire that Ballista right away, and my goal is going to be to go for Living Death as soon as possible, using Divert to get as much adrenaline as possible. I won't have APOT right away for this Living Death, so I might not necessarily get all 3 Death Skulls in, but I want to get that Living Death off sooner rather than later. Then I'm just going to be blasting away with Necrosis until Vorkath is dead. Once I'm on to Zamorak, I'll finish out whatever remaining time I have on my Living Death. Once I see that I have Split Soul available again, I'll also make sure to turn that on, and that should make finishing the kill really nice and easy. You can see that I ended up getting a 237 kill here, so pretty good amount of leeway for that master kill in under 245. So for the No Ballista challenge, just make sure you're not accidentally pressing the action button anytime during the kill. It is normally pretty good for killing any of the minions, and of course for when Vorkath flies up, but just make sure you're not accidentally using it to kill any of the minions, either before the flight or after the flight. When it comes to the actual flight portion, normally you need to use the Ballista, otherwise Vorkath is going to cover the arena in ice that does a lot of damage. So to survive that, you're just going to have to barricade. Your familiar probably is going to die, so if you like using a Hellhound, just make sure you bring an extra pouch to summon a new one after this attack. From here on out, just finish the kill and you've got yourself a nice easy master achievement. Zamorak. So this is arguably the hardest set of achievements in the whole master tier. We'll need to get up to 2000% in rage in both solo and group. We need a sub 5 minute 12 second kill, which is probably best done in a team size of 3. although I ended up duoing mine. We need a 500% kill without ever getting any special mechanics, and then we have a whole host of mechanical challenges at 750% enrage. Now for these challenges that you see listed, I highly recommend doing the unorthodox kill. You bundle basically all of these challenges at once. The easiest strategy is also to take it slow and take extra time on each pad just to simply skip every mechanic. That way you don't even have to engage with half of these challenges in the first place. So this becomes even easier. So first off, I'm going to let my Necromancy unorthodox guide play out, as that is not only the most efficient, but believe it or not, the easiest way to tackle all of these challenges. Afterwards, we'll talk about the speed kill. So as I mentioned at the very start, a lot of this challenge becomes a lot easier if we pair this with the other master task not to get any special attacks. To do that, we're going to employ the same strategy for every single pad. We'll charge the pad most of the way up, then lower Zamorak's HP all the way down, then we'll fully charge the pad and unleash some really strong necromancy abilities. It'll be the same rotation every pad, so I'll leave that on screen when we get there. We also have to remember to do the correct pad order for this challenge. I'll narrate it as we go along, of course, but we're going to do pad 3, then 5, then 6, then 1, 4, 2. Once we have the pad most of the way charged up, we'll set up our special skip rotation. We'll want to make sure that the boss is vulned and smoke clouded. We'll then use Split Soul, Bloat, and then Commander Skeleton. Next, we'll step onto the pad to charge it all the way up, use Death Skulls, 5-stack Volley, Finger of Death, Finger again, Tier 90 special attack, and if it's still not phased, you can use Tier 95 special attack. So that's going to be the rotation. We're going to do the exact same setup on every single pad. So since this is going to be largely identical, I'll fast forward through a lot of this P1 to 6. Just gotta remember that pad order. After pad 3, we're gonna move on to pad 5. We'll lower Zammy's HP, set up our rotation by getting 5 souls, 12 necrosis, smoke cloud and vuln the boss, then use bloat, skeleton, then use split soul, bloat, skeleton, step on the pad, skulls, finger, weapon spec. Nice and easy. Since we've charged pad 5 early, the only mechanical thing you'll have to worry about are these hazards on each pad. You'll want to use anticipate and pray magic before stepping on any of these pads for the rest of the fight. You can use devotion as well if you want to take no damage from these. Just make sure that you're not accidentally using a shield defensive like reflect or resonance. The majority of this unorthodox kill is actually going to be very easy for the first 6 phases here, but it is pretty slow. That's fine though. Slow and steady is going to win this race. After pad 6, we'll go all the way across the arena and do the exact same thing on pad 1. Next up is pad 4, and lastly pad 2. Pad 2 might actually be a little bit easier since your death mark will trigger and you'll have even more leeway to skip the special attacks. So assuming you've made it this far, we've completed 3 out of 6 of the unorthodox feats, and we'll even get a bonus master task for skipping specs at 500% or higher. Now for phase 7, we have a couple of objectives here. We must continue to avoid using shield defensives, we must leave the demons alive, and we'll have to kill the wrong rune one time. I'm going to do a 2 cycle in this kill, but if you wanted to attempt a 1 cycle and kill a wrong rune first, make sure that you're kiting the demon and use Disruption Shield to block that hit. Although I recommend the 2 cycle, as you can then use Disruption Shield to block Zamorak's world-ending attack and have Disruption Shield come back off of cooldown to kill a wrong rune. So in here in my kill, I'll ignore the demon altogether. I have seen some players entangle him, which is a great strategy, but you'll see that it's not a hard requirement either. I'll use Vulnerability, Death Mark, and Smoke Cloud on Zamorak, then focus on killing my first 2 runes. I am going to have to take a lot of damage here and try and dish out some damage on Zamorak as well, so I'll use Devotion with Prey Melee, Debilitate on Zamorak, and Vitality Potion for that first big melee hit. All the while, I'm just trying to use some Necrosis abilities, a big volley of souls, and I also got off a tier 90 spec. That did a reasonable amount of damage to Zamorak. I brought him down to 75k HP, so as long as I can live through this second cycle, killing him will be very easy, as Deathmark will trigger at that last 30k. Now to survive this world-ending attack, honestly having a Sign of Life is a great option here. You could also try and use Debilitate again on Zamorak, or make use of Shield Dome to reduce the damage by 50%. Normally you'd want to use Immortality to deal with this, but again, that ability is off limits for the purposes of this unorthodox kill. I did not manage to get off Debilitate in my kill. I did use Shield Dome, and I did Sign. It's not the most beautiful gameplay out there, but if it works, it works. You might also want to consider using a Ring of Death for this portion. So again, not the most beautiful gameplay, but this is what signs are made for. Now that I've survived that, I can take my time kiting these 2 demons around the room, but kiting them isn't too big a problem either. While you're kiting, you're safe to soul split on Zamorak and build back some HP that way. Now that we're in the second cycle, we'll also want to kill one of the incorrect runes. I do that while kiting my demons, and ideally you'd use Disruption Shield to block that hit, but as you can see here, since I'm full HP and I have a Hellhound familiar with me, I'll survive it just fine. Now I'm just going to take whatever time I want to prepare any stacks that I want to get my full HP if I wanted, ensure that Zamorak is vulned and smoke clouded, and once I'm ready, I'll kill my last rune, then simply kill the boss with a volley and a weapon spec. And there you have it, that's how I completed the unorthodox Zamorak Grandmaster achievement. That knocks out all of the individual master achievements for Zamorak as well. So doing it with this method also has the added benefit of completing another Grandmaster task of not getting any special attacks at 750% or higher. So just look at all this achievement spam here. I thought this was really cool. Completing 8 achievements at once. I highly recommend taking this approach if you're looking to complete the master achievements for Zamorak. You get it all done in one go and earn yourself a Grandmaster Unorthodox feat as the cherry on top. Now let's talk about the 512 speed kill. This is probably best done in a team size of 3. That way you have one player dealing with the witch, one player doing pads, and an extra DPSer who'll be able to help manage gray HP while the other player is absent killing the witch. The strategy for this one is really quite fun, and I do hope I get to do more of these kills, as I enjoyed it a lot. If you are going for this challenge, please feel free to invite me. If I'm available, I would be happy to help with these kills. That'll give me a chance to keep improving, have some fun, and hopefully help some of you guys out as well. Anyway, on the witches before the fight starts, try and get to 3 or 4 death spore stacks. That way when you get to the last witch, you can use Griko and basically guarantee that you have 5 death spore stacks. Then you can use a free death swiftness. Place the swiftness before Zamorak spawns, and on Zamorak use smoke cloud plus incendiary shot. Then try and divert plus apot, Bolg spec, and 2 abilities on Zamorak before moving on to the pad. So I did Bolg, Griko, Tendril. That way the Tendril procs on perfect equilibrium, and then I can start charging the pad. Once I step on the pad, I ECB, fully channel rapid fire, then do something like Dark Bow, Saren God Bow, Dark Bow, Dark Bow. You may have to play around with the order depending on your bulk stacks and your crit adren refunds. After the pad adrenaline refund, use another Dark Bow and try and get the gray HP below 150,000 HP before moving on to the next pad. Your partner will go into the witch and kill the witch. While I'm moving Zamorak to the next pad, I'll use Soulfire spec to maintain the gray HP a little bit, and I'll also use Concentrated Blast and Tsunami to refresh my critical strike buff. Then I can use bulk spec again. When I see my partner is back and the gray HP is pretty manageable, I'm going to step on the pad to charge it. We won't have swiftness for this pad, so it's ideal if the gray HP is under 30,000 damage before charging. Step onto the pad, ECB, rapid fire, and improvise something like Dark Bow, Saren God Bow, Dark Bow, Dark Bow. This is going to be a really common theme for basically every pad, with the ECB, Rapid, Dark Bow, SGB, Dark Bow. This pad will be the hardest since we don't have swiftness, and it is actually technically okay if you get a melee slam here. You will still be able to make the timer, but of course it saves you a lot of damage if you skip it. So from here on out, every pad is more or less going to be about the same. So I'm taking Zamorak over to the next pad, and I'm trying to get some Death Spore stacks so that I can use a free swiftness and incendiary shot. Once I get those off, I can divert for adrenaline, and then I can bulk spec again. When I have enough adrenaline that I can ECB and rapid, I'll step onto the pad. My partner suggested that anywhere around 150 to 200,000 gray HP is a fair time to charge pads and still reliably skip mechanics. So on the pad, the procedure is exactly the same. ECB, rapid, Debo, SGB, Debo, Debo. As we progress throughout the fight, we'll naturally have shorter and shorter cooldowns on our abilities, so we can use rapid fire more often. So depending on your gray HP going from phase 3 to 4, you can consider using the same strategy you did on phase 2, using Soulfire, Tsunami, and ECB, not going for a full swiftness plus incendiary setup. And that's what we ended up doing here. It's a little bit of a judgment call, but since it was under 100,000 gray HP, I thought that it was the right move. The abilities after stepping onto the pad are going to be exactly the same. ECB, Rapid, Debo, SGB, Debos. You will probably get Chaos Blast special attack here, so I chose to play it safe and use Devotion, though you probably could also do something like Reflect plus Vitality Potion, and that would actually do a little bit of damage to Zamorak, so that might be better. Anywho, moving towards pad 6 on phase 5, I try and get my full Death Spore setup again, so that I can do Swiftness plus Incendiary Shot. You will see that the Protector spawns in, but you can ignore it altogether. If it somehow happens to die to Griko hits, that's cool, but you can just ignore it. So the setup, once again, is going to be the same. Death Spore for Swiftness plus Incendiary, Divert for Adrenaline, Bulk Spec. When you're ready, step on the pad, ECB, Rapid, Debos, SGB, Debos. It would be ideal if you can skip the special mechanic on phase 5, as it will set you up for a more favorable phase 6. On phase 6, you're going to do the exact same setup with Death Spores and the same abilities on the pad. You can tell I started getting nervous around this time, so my gameplay is very questionable. I accidentally camped death spores for the majority of the phase. I forgot to bulg, I forgot to ECB, so I definitely threw hard here, and my partner had to hard carry this phase, as well as the whole kill, honestly. But as long as you enter phase 7 no later than 4:20 on the clock, you will be on pace for the 5:12. Did I bulk? No, I didn't. What the Oh, I'm on spores. I was on spores, oh my god. Yikes. Yeah, winnable. Phase 7, you want to start it off with a rapid fire on the demon. That way you can get a Death Spore Gricko while being under the Dracolich buff. And you can get off a free Incendiary Death Swiftness again. Adrenaline Potion if you haven't already, as there's nothing really to divert here. And on the first rune, use Bulk Spec and a basic ability. Then on the second rune, just use a couple of strong abilities like Gricko or Snapshot and Eldritch Crossbow. Depending on your team size, you may have more runes to kill and will need to improvise from there, but we duoed this so there's only 2 runes to worry about. After you kill the second rune on Zamorak, you should rapid fire and then do Seren Godbow plus a bunch of Dark Bows, but my clip here I did some really wacky stuff. I think I accidentally stalled my rapid fire and then nulled it, and then I ended up doing really wacky abilities on Zamorak. But ideally, if you're not a panicking noob, you rapid fire, debow, SGB, debow, and the boss is dead. You can Disruption Shield and Vidpot for the first melee attack, then just Ring of Death for the next bomb attacks. I also ended up signing here, which is worse than Ring of Deathing, as it takes away all of your adrenaline. So ideally I should have taken Defense Cape off of my Cape perks before the kill, and that would have helped a tiny bit. But anyway, there's my talk through on my Zamorak Master speed kill. I hope it's helpful, and I do hope I have a chance to do more of this in the future. It was really very fun, and I would like to keep improving at stuff like this. So big shout out to my partner Time Freds for doing this with me. I think so. That might be it. I trolled so hard. I think that's it, but I trolled so hard. Oh my god. That is kind of embarrassing. The last boss in the Master tier is Zuck. So for the Master tier, we need to do a normal mode kill in under 12 minutes 30 seconds and a hard mode kill in under 16 minutes. We'll need to do a flawless hard mode kill, which basically just means completing all of the special challenge waves. We need to do a 1 cycle Huraken. We need to do a kill where we stand completely still on the triple Jad wave, and I would recommend doing this with ranged. Then we have 2 challenges for the actual Zuck portion of the fight. The first is reverse minion order. So during the pizza phase, instead of killing the minions in the normal order, meleeer, ranger, major, you purposely wait until the major is spawned in, and then kill them all in reverse order. So major, ranger, meleeer. Lastly, we'll need to kill the conduit of full in the final phase, standing completely still the whole time. The first 2 feats, you will want to get a flawless Zuck kill and a 1 cycle Huraken. To get the flawless, it's exactly the same concept as in the normal mode. Use Threads of Fate on the first challenge, both Necro weapon specs on challenge 2, and Barricade for challenge 3. To get the 1 cycle Huraken, you can achieve this by using Split Soul and a tier 95 weapon spec, then just improvising a rotation with that. But if you really must, just for the sake of getting this feat done, you could use a full Living Death and blast away with Necrosis. For the challenge to kill all 3 Jads without moving, we will need a ranged weapon switch. So in my kill here, I brought my Bolg with me and a couple pieces of ranged armor. It doesn't necessarily need to be a Bolg, just a ranged weapon that has 9 tile range. Using magic or necromancy will walk you off of that starting tile. You'll automatically get placed on the correct tile after the 3rd challenge, so just make sure you don't move at all. Equip your ranged gear and pick any Jad to kill quickly. You will have to be cautious of an igneous rain spawn, so you may want to camp high adrenaline and save barricade as a way to keep killing Jads and tank through the igneous rain if necessary. I actually did one run previously to this where I was killed by the igneous rain, so I played extra cautiously here and camped 100% adrenaline, ready to cade if needed. When it comes to prey flicking the Jads, they will actually attack you in the sequence, and should never be attacking you on the same tick, so it should be fairly easy to prey against these. If you do miss a flick, usually it's fine if you're full HP. Darkness could also help you dodge an attack, Resonance can heal you back to full, and Reflect will reduce the damage by half, so there's a lot of counterplay to achieve this feat. For the challenge to kill minions in reverse order, I've been referring to that as RBO since Combat Achievements came out, just because I've always been a Metroid fan, and reverse boss order is a famous speedrun category. Neither here nor there, but to get this feat done, when the pizza phase starts, you won't want to kill the meleeer or the ranger. Instead, you can just pre-death mark them, and you could vulnerability them or smoke cloud them if you really wanted to. But just wait until the major spawns, and once the major spawns, we'll want to work quickly here. Use bloat and maybe even a volley of souls to kill the major. Use a big weapon spec or a finger of death to kill the ranger quickly. Then use Soul Strike or a tier 90 weapon spec to stun the meleeer, and then any other strong Necromancy abilities to kill the meleeer. This challenge is a lot easier than it seems. It may seem scary because you're on a bit of a timer before the insta-kill, but Necromancy is so powerful you should clear this no problem. For the Conduit challenge, I used the Aegis Aura, a Hellhound, and even brought a Ring of Death with me as a last resort backup. But I got this challenge done without signing, so you'll see this strat is pretty effective. I've seen a lot of players bring a dummy to get back to full adrenaline and do a natural instinct on it before attacking the Conduit. Personally, I just intentionally did a 2-cycle on Zuck and built full stacks. Then I did my natural instinct on Zuck when he was around 130k HP or so. The intention behind the natural instinct is so that I can use Living Death, get off of Death Skulls on the Conduit, and then build back to full adrenaline so that I can use Barricade. Once I'm barricaded, I can use Split Soul and try and juice out some more damage. When you kill one cycle of the pillar, you'll actually have a little bit of stall time before Zuck starts sending out auto attacks. So there is actually a way to do this without using Barricade altogether, but it's better to just play it safe. No need to be too fancy here. Once my barricade ran out though, I did have to tank a couple of auto attacks using Reflect, but that's perfectly fine. I'm quite close to finishing the kill now at this point anyway. Just make sure that you summon new conjures if you have to and use your best abilities. Deathmark is great on every cycle. Bloat is great on every cycle. Definitely take advantage of Split Soul while you're barricaded and use your weapon specs. And if all still goes wrong here, you still have a lot of backups here to tank some auto attacks. You've got your defensive abilities, your Hellhound, your Aegis Aura, your Sign of Life, and your Ring of Death. Lastly, in the Master tier are the speed timers. Normal mode in under 12:30 and hard mode in under 16 minutes. I would recommend skipping ahead and learning from the Grandmaster lures or watching my separate normal mode and hard mode Grandmaster guides if you want the specifics, but the main principles from normal mode are still very relevant and will work fine without the need to do anything especially fancy. So just to reiterate those, for the melee waves, I try and aim to be in the center of the arena, and when monsters group up, I'll use Threads of Fate or Triple Scythe. For the ranger waves, I try and aim to be at the very south of the arena near the gate, and when the rangers clump up, I'll use Threads of Fate or Death Skull bounces to clear those guys. For the major waves, I try to be near the center of the west wall, and most of the monsters will clump up in the middle, where I can again use Threads of Fate and Death Skulls to kill them quickly. Hurricane can easily be killed during a tier 95 weapon spec, especially if you're using Split Soul. You will want to save your Living Death for Zuck, and if you follow these general concepts, you should smash the normal mode 12:30 and the hard mode 16-minute requirements. And there you have it. There's my take on a complete and comprehensive guide for the full tier of Master Combat achievements. I hope I covered all of the important achievements you were looking for. If you enjoyed this video or found it useful, please share it with a friend. Leave me a comment and subscribe for more high-level guides just like this, as well as more achievements, gameplay, and progression series that I have on my channel. Thanks for watching, and see you next time.